all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got massive harem in Monster Hunter's World, Part 1. Sobanahigaku no Sato. It was a regular time in the village of Konoha. The birds were singing to the end of the day, shops closing, sun setting over the horizon, and mobs of civilians and ninjas alike were chasing a 5-year-old blonde. To strangers or travelers, this may seem strange or unorthodox. Why would a mob with ninjas that's duty is to protect the people of the village be chasing down a boy with intent to maim or kill whilst shouting demon burn in hell? This is for the yondaime, and everyone you killed, and throwing anything they can get their hands on from rocks to kunais to sandals? To answer that, this is no ordinary boy. This boy has bright blue eyes that could make the ocean itself jealous, with bright sunny blonde hair, spike in every direction imaginable, and an ever-present grin that to those who knew the boy knows that it is force. This boy is none other than Naruto Uzumaki, the village's pariah, the village's demon, or for those who are chunin above, the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Not that he knows of it yet. Today is the 5th anniversary of the defeat of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, and shops are closing early due to the fact that they want to open up their stands near the town center for increased rate of customers and income, since the main festival of Kyuubi's defeat will be held there. Back to the story, shops are closing early, and ninjas who have been sent on missions are returning to attend this yearly event and to try and have a chance to try out the most popular attraction, the fox hunt. This attraction doesn't usually open until halfway during the festival, but the civilians and ninjas this year have been very eager to attend, so they decided to start early. So we now find ourselves watching / reading the view of Naruto being chased by the mob of angry civilians and ninjas as they led him to the edge of town where the sandaime or his guardians will not be able to find him for a few minutes or hours, which leaves enough time for the mob members to have their way with the village proclaimed demon. Naruto's POV. Run, run, and run. That's all I can think of right now. Gotta run so that those mean people won't be able to catch me. Come on, don't fail my legs. I kept running and running until I saw the gates and knew that the stalls and booths were going to block any other escape route. I made a mad dash towards the gate that seemed to be open just for me and the mob. I saw the shit-eating grins that the gate guards and the people near the booth gave me. They mean, what did I ever do to deserve this? How could I make all this pain go away? I questioned myself. As I thought those words, I didn't realize that I had made it out of the gates and had reached the woods/forest that represents the fire country. I was about to stop and turn back because the mobs, usually stop chasing me after I pass the gates, when all of a sudden a kunai grazed my left cheek, and I screamed in shock and pain. I looked behind to see that mob circling around me like a pack predator hunting its prey. I was about to beg for forgiveness for whatever I have done when all of a sudden they pounced at me. Normal POV. Few minutes later, more like 45 minutes later, a half-dead, bloody, and barely conscious Naruto lay on the ground in a pool of his own blood. His once vibrant blue eyes are now dull and gray. Metaphorically, his usual bright sunny blonde hair are now stained crimson red, and his annoying grin turned upside down, as a small whimper escaped his lips every few seconds. The mob has beaten him with everything they have, not to mention the ninjas that have been passing by on the way back to the village after a mission. They beat him with sticks, branches, kunais, shurikens, swords, and anything they could their hands on that would cause the slightest pain to the poor 5-year-old. Naruto lay there already accepting that he will die, accepting that he will never fulfill his promise to become the greatest of the great to his Gigi. He won't be able to see Ayame-chan's smile again, he won't be able to eat Tsuchiji-san's delicious ramen again, and he will forever disappear from the world. He was about to cast his last breath when all of a sudden, he felt a power surge through him. He felt power like no other originating from an outside source. It feels like a volcano the size of the biggest mountain in IWA has erupted inside of him. He felt his resolve reignite with determination that would put Guy and Lee's to shame. I won't die now, he thought, not when I haven't done anything to impact this world. He paused for a few seconds. There's still plenty of opportunities for me to achieve my goals. I haven't died yet, I'm still alive. He screamed in his mind, I won't die. Not yet, I want to live. Make me live, come on. Live, live, live. With that, the power that he felt earlier exploded out of him like a volcano eruption that shook the very earth itself. The chakra that has exploded out of his person is crimson in color with yellow and black streaks of chakra here and there that seems to flow like lava. His wounds began to heal at an impossible rate, and he began to sit up. When he stood, he ran towards the location where he felt the outside power source that had helped him in his resolve. He didn't know how long he ran, but when he arrived, he saw a sword Zanbatsu stuck in the middle of the platform with ancient runes around it glowing red. The platform seemed to be camouflaged by the ever-growing leaves, trees, and grass of Fire Country, as it is near impossible to see without the glowing crimson light that it is emitting. Bringing his small tiny hands to the handle of the Zanbatsu, he grasps it, only to gasp in slight shock, as he felt more power enter his being, and seemed to fade out of existence in a flash of crimson and yellow streaked light, with a blade and platform and would not be seen or heard of for 10 years. Konoha before power surge. The mob that is returning from their yearly fox hunt has arrived at the gates of Konoha, only to meet a very, very angry Sandaime, and a squad of ANBU Black Ops that is loyal to the Sandaime, and respected Yandaime's last wish/will. The mob slowly approached the Sandaime, weary due to the rage that is present on his wrinkled face. Once they were a few meters away, the Sandaime spoke. Now I will only say this once. Where is Naruto? We don't know what you are talking about, Sandaime say. An unknown ninja who is not important spoke only to be cut off, as a kunai lodged in his head, startling the other ninjas in the area. I'm warning you, if I see him bloodied and bruised, I will personally torture you and send you back to your family in box so small that they would need a microscope to examine your remains. If there is any, the Sandaime said the last part ominous. Just as he finished saying that, the people of Konoha and, most likely the entire shinobi nations felt an earthquake stronger than one of Iowa's most powerful earth jutsus. They also saw a bright light that looked similar to a volcano in the distance where the mob presumed to have been. The Sandaime and ninjas of the village paled, as they thought the Kyuubi might have escaped only for the earthquake and chakra/power surge to stop, followed by an even stronger chakra/power surge a few minutes later, and disappeared. Sandaime was the first to recollect his thoughts, as he called out the orders: get all available ANBUs, and, here now, have the Chunins and Genins evacuate the civilians to the Hokage mountain. Few minutes later we found the Sandaime, 50 ANBUs and 100 Jounins tree-hopping towards the location of where Naruto was before he got teleported into God knows where. They arrived a few minutes later only to find a field, or what used to be a grassy field, covered with scorch marks everywhere. Some of the rocks and boulders in the area have melted into something similar to magma, and the trees that have been proudly grown by the Shodaime turned into ash. The Sandaime told the ninjas to scatter and look for clues on what could have caused this catastrophic event, whilst the Sandaime stood where the sword, platform, and Naruto used to be. Not that he knew it. He looked down only to see an orange cloth that he could recognize anywhere. Taking a few minutes to collect his thoughts, Sandaime sighed, and let a few tears roll out of his eyes like a leaking tap, and whispered, I'm so sorry Naruto, I have failed you, and your father. If only your mother was here from the beginning. Please forgive this foolish old man, and be happy, wherever you are with his peace done. He recalled all of the ninjas, and headed back to the village to grieve at the death of his beloved grandson, in anything but blood. What he or any other ninja didn't realize is the small flicker of crimson energy that disappeared as soon as it appeared. Most people in the village will celebrate the death of the demon, while some would mourn the death of their beloved Naruto. The ignorance of the village has caused what could have been the leaf's most promising ninja to become something even more feared than the Kyuubi, for Naruto would return. And, when he would raise hell to earth, and bring upon his fury. This shall act as a warning. Be prepared for his return. 10 years after Naruto's disappearance, Hokage's office. It has been a long 10 years for one Sarutobi Hiruzen. He has lost his surrogate grandson to the stupidity of this village that he protects. And, said surrogate grandson's mother, and twin turns out to be alive, and, well, and are now residing in the village after they heard the death of the demon. The council even broke his law about the Kyuubi being sealed inside Naruto. Now everyone in Konoha knows the truth of what happened on October 10th, 15 years ago. Sigh, he could only sigh, as he thought of all the bad things that have happened to his beloved grandson and all but blood. Kushina, Naruto's mother, and Naomi, Naruto's twin, has returned to the village about a year after Naruto disappeared, stating that since the demon is gone, she could finally live in peace with her only child in peace within the village. The villagers were shocked that the wife of the Yondaime is alive, as they thought that she had died along with her husband. Of course, they don't know that Naruto was her, and the Yondaime's son, and only thought that Naomi was the only child of the late Yondaime, and the current head of the Uzumaki and Namikaze clan, Kushina, and only took Naruto's similar appearance to the late Yondaime as a joke by the demon to remind them of their loss. Kushina and Naomi have been hailed as heroes when they walked through the gates of Konoha. They celebrated the return of their hero's wife and daughter after the village's noble deed in getting rid of the demon. Some even proposed that they were the one who did it, and had the right to take the hands, in marriage, of Kushina and Naomi for doing something that the Yondaime couldn't even do. Of course they were shot down harder than a nuclear bomb the size of a mountain. Getting back to the story, Sarutobi can't help but let another sigh escape his lips, as he wished that he had done better to protect Naruto from all his misfortunes. He only wished that wherever he was, he would be safe and well protected, something that he, the god of shinobi, and the professor couldn't do it. Few kilometers away from Konoha, a figure standing about 5'11" with broad shoulders, and a massive sword behind his back is walking towards the village hidden in the leaves at a leisurely pace, as if he can sense someone attacking him a week before the attack would happen. The man, as judging from the way he walks and carries himself, is wearing what appears to be a ninja outfit fit for an ANBU member of the Leaf Village. He wears long, black baggy jeans with many pockets that reach his ankle, steel-toed combat boots that seem to have hidden blades inside the sole of the boot. He also wore a sleeveless mesh shirt with a short-sleeved black shirt that hugs his body like a second skin, and shows off his six-packs. He is also wearing a midnight black gauntlet that covers the back of his hand and forearm. It also has small spikes at the tip of his knuckles and leather protecting the rest of his right arm made of reptilian skin/armor. On his left he just wore the usual ANBU forearm armor, only midnight black with the same material. He also wears shin guards, though it could not be seen due to the long baggy pants. He wears ANBU-like vest armor, which is made of a material that could come from a lizard-like creature, dragon, and a black face mask similar to one Hatake Kakashi, only it has crimson-red lines, similar to the color of magma, vertically running from both sides of his cheeks. The figure is also wearing what appear to be shoulder guards made of the same material as the vest and gauntlet. The odd thing is that his eyes were red like blood, and seemed to burn with a raging firestorm that could level the highest mountain and decimate a whole nation of ninjas. There are also what seems to be red, tear-like marks running down the bottom of his eyes and disappearing behind his face mask. He also seems to have sunny blonde hair with red streaks here and there that is shaped in a similar fashion as the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju. The most peculiar thing of all is his massive sword on his back. It seems to have the same aura as Samahata, the greatest of the swords of the seven swordsmen of the mist, only stronger, more potent, and wild. The size of the sword is nothing to scoff at either. It's nearly twice the size of Samahata in the shape of a triangle, though it seems to be made of something that is considered to be a myth, dragon skin. The edges of the blade are made out of the toughest of all materials, even tougher than the Samahata. The blade also seems like it has a manga-like blade in the middle of it that makes it look even deadlier. This is the Sword of Legends, a sword that not even the Sage of the Six Paths knows of, a sword even stronger than the Kyuubi. This is the sword that is made from the shell, tail, claw of the almighty beast, a canter. And the name of the sword? A canter, the Deathbringer. This man is none other than Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto. Or Namikaze Naruto, since his traitorous mother decided to abandon him. He shall abandon the Uzumaki name. Right now, he is making his way to the place where everything started, and where everything is going to end. He is making his way towards the village hidden in the leaves. He wants answers, he wants what is rightfully his, and he wants it now. Few minutes later, Konoha's main gate. A man could be seen walking towards the gate of the village. The gate guards, who have been relaxing since their shift began, straighten their backs and tense their muscles due to the fact that they were getting a bad vibe coming from the figure that was walking towards the gate. They noticed that the man, judging from his posture and the way he walks, is about 5'11" tall, which makes them think that the figure is in his late teens to early 20s. They also noticed a massive sword stuck on his back, which indicates that the man is trained, and, judging from the way he seems to be relaxed yet guarded at the same time, proves that the man is experienced in combat. The time it took to reach the gate seemed like hours, as the tension between the two parties started to rise higher and higher, as the figure is but a meter or two away from the guards. One guard said halt, and stat your business. The figure did nothing but raise his right hand, which has the gauntlet strapped or melded into the skin, and reach for the handle of the sword, which is located on his upper right shoulder, just above the shoulder guards. The Chunin guards, taking this as a sign of an attack, took out their kunais and launched it at the figure, who acted as fast as lightning and drew the sword behind back so fast that it nearly made the Chunin think twice about attacking the man, since nobody, no matter how strong, could never imagine to hold or even lift a blade of such size with that kind of speed. Reacting quickly, one of the Chunin guards flared its chakra to alert every ninja in the village of a possible attack. A second later, 8 ANBU appeared since they were patrolling near the area, and felt the pulse of chakra from the Chunin. The ANBU saw the figure, and his massive blade drawn, and like the Chunins, thought that the figure was about to attack, and drew their katanas from their back, and charged at the figure in a pincer formation, where they would corner the figure and trap them in an octagon-like formation, which would block the figure from going anywhere without having to face ANBU, unless the figure jumped. But there were ANBUs that just arrived to stop that. As the ANBU came closer and closer, the figure just stood impassively, and just as the ANBU was within a few meters, the figure made a slashing movement with its drawn blade, and red lava-like part of the sword extended, and caught 4 of the 8 ANBUs, and severed their upper body from the bottom. At this, the rest of the ANBU regrouped and finally took a good look at the sword, which terrified them to the very core, as it looked demonic yet majestic at the same time. Having lost 4 ANBUs one swing, the rest pulsed their chakra several times to call in for reinforcement, and the Hokage, or anyone powerful. It didn't take long for reinforcement to arrive, as they felt the second pulse of chakra, and knew that it had to be urgent, as the pulses have meaning. One pulse means intruder, which usually takes a few ANBU to take care of it. The second pulse means reinforcement is needed. The third pulse usually means that they need the assistant of the Hokage him/herself, but if the ANBU pulse their chakra several times in a row, that mean that any available med jounin above should come to the location no matter what, and pulse several times the ANBU did. I mean, the man just killed 4 elite ANBU in a few seconds in one swing. Sure, they underestimated him, but hey, better safe than sorry. It only took a few more seconds of tension, as the reinforcement arrived, and surrounded the figure. Some are on top of the gate, while some are on the roof of the buildings that are near the gate. The common thing that the reinforcement share is that they have their kunais drawn, and their muscles tensed and flaring their chakra bit by bit. At the front of the crows is none other than Sarutobi Hiruzen, the current leader of the village before/after the Yondaime Hokage, who is also known as the god of shinobi, and the professor for his knowledge of all the jutsus in the ninja world, wearing his usual battle armor that fits for a samurai type of armor. Next to the Sandaime is his ever-loyal ANBU, and some very powerful jounin, namely Hatake Kakashi, Sarutobi Asuma, Kurenai Yuhi, Mitarashi Enko, Mado Gai, and other jounins that have been successful in battle, and mission-wise, though the most shocking of things is none other than the appearance of Uzumaki Namikaze Kushina, who seem as if she hasn't aged ever since anyone has last saw her, and beside her is none other than Uzumaki Namikaze Naomi, the official daughter of Kushina, and Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage, or better known, and feared, as the Yellow Flash. As the reinforcement arrived, the figure that had been the center of attention for a while did nothing but rest his sword on his shoulder, and impassively stare at the ninja, and Hokage arrived before him. As the figure stood still, the Sandaime slowly yet carefully approached him whilst he asked, "State your name, and business in my village, and what has this village done to you for you to cause such a ruckus at this time?" Demanded the Sandaime in a voice that leaves no argument. The figure did nothing, but slowly clenched and unclenched both hands. The ninjas in the area knew what this meant, as they prepared their weapons, and Sandaime was about to ask again, but was interrupted by Kushina, as she screamed, "Hey, you with the big sword, you got some nerves to actually ignore the Sandaime and attack the strongest village in the nation. Why don't you speak before I force your voice out of you by ripping you a new mouth?" The figure seemed to notice this, judging from the way he looks at Kushina for a few seconds before he looked back towards the Hokage, and said, "You really need to keep your shinobi in line, or don't be surprised when you find the wife of the great Yondaime in a coffin next to her husband." The voice seemed to creep the ninjas in the area, as it had a tone of authority that could only be achieved by royalty, and also had a sense of deadliness in them, like he could kill you by just using his voice, which would be sad. Sandaime was about to reply, but was interrupted by Kushina again. "Are you threatening me?" questioned Kushina, as an aura of darkness loomed above her head, and her eyes were covered by her bangs. "No, merely stating the obvious, Kushina, and telling you that little Naomi might end up motherless by the end of the day," the figure replied. That was it for Kushina, as she charged towards the figure with her sword drawn. She was known as the Red Death, is she, for nothing, as she is a sword master on par with the 7 swordsmen of the mist, but unluckily for her, the figure, which is Naruto, is on a level way beyond the 7 swordsmen of the mist, or the Jubi even, but nobody except him, and his summons knew that of course. Kushina was a mere centimeter away from the figure, and was about to behead him when her sword was suddenly blocked by the massive blade. She and everybody else in the area was surprised that the figure had such strength to lift such a massive blade with ease. Due to her shock, she didn't notice that the figure had pushed her back, and lifted his blade high up his head to a downward slash. A mere second before the sword reached her head, she, along with the Sandaime, and Konoha's resident sword master, Yugao, and Hate blocked the blade with their respective weapons, which is Enma in his adamantium staff mode for the Sandaime, and the respective custom blades for Yugao, and Hate is enhanced with chakra. As the Sandaime, Kushin, Yugao, and Hate blocked the blade, they felt a pressure like no other, as the ground below them cracked under the strength of one swing from the figure. they felt their bones and respective weapons creak under the stress and pressure of the one powerful swing. The ground below finally gave in and created a crater, large enough to fit 5 people, and have enough space to move, and picked up dust. Once the dust cleared, the ninjas in the area saw an amazing scene, for strong ninja have been brought to their knees, and looked to be sweating up a storm by one swing from a man who is no older than 20, and the figure keeps on adding pressure to the tip of his blade, which indicates how strong he really is. Just when they thought that the figure was about to finish the job, he stopped adding pressure, and said, Now, that's no way to welcome me back to the village. I've only been gone for 10 years, and this is how you welcome a family member. I'm hurt, Ji-san, Ka-san, stated the figure, which caused Kushina and Hiruzen widen their eyes in epic proportions as they figured out who the figure was. The only person who could say that to both of them, and has blonde hair though a little different. He is Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto, Konoha's main gate. The newly known Naruto lifted the blade and rested it upon his shoulder as the Sandaime, Kushina, Hate, and Yugao got back to their feet. The ninjas in the vicinity thought that this was a chance to attack, as they lunged their kunais, shuriken, and jutsus, which is mostly fire style, fireball jutsu. As the projectiles and jutsu was about to hit the figure, red chakra that appeared from the ground circled Naruto in a sphere-like barrier, and deflected/stopped the assault. The ninja was about to bring in the second wave when the Sandaime raised his hand in a stop gesture, and said, "Stop at this instant. He is not an enemy, I sure hope not," he whispered in the last part. "What?" screamed several ninjas, as they haven't relaxed their posture, and brought another kunai/shuriken from their ninja pouches. "Relax, he is just an old friend of mine who happened to go missing a few years ago. He's just back for a greeting." "This is all just a misunderstanding," replied the Hokage. "But sir, he killed 4 ANBU members," stated an unknown ANBU with a platypus mask. "It's all in self-defense," said the figure. "After all, they came at me with intention to maim and or kill me, and I haven't provoked them in any sort of way." "What are you talking about?" questioned the Chunin guard that said of the first chakra pulse, "We," mentioning the other Chunin, "saw you reach for your sword handle." He screamed, "Yes, you did, but all I wanted to do was scratch my head since I don't have an ID. I," stated the figure with a nervous laugh at the end, whilst the ninjas in the vicinity all sweat dropped. Clearing his throat, Sandaime became serious, and said, "Everyone, please return to your duty, and there will be no discussion. We will have a jounin meeting after I talk with our guest, and I will send a messenger eagle to notify you all of the time, and you will be debriefed on what had happened a few minutes ago. Now if all of you except for Kakashi, Kushina, Gai, Asuma, and Kurinai please leave." With that, everyone except for the named jounins left the area to go back to their duties and talk to each other about the event that just occurred. Everyone had left except for Naomi, who stood still and looked at Naruto with a critical eye, as if she knew who he was. When the Sandaime was about to tell her to leave, Naruto spoke up. "Maybe you let her stay after all. She needs to know the truth, and it's bound to happen sooner or later, right, Ji-san?" Sighing, the Sandaime replied, "All right, she could stay. Now let's head to my office so we can have a more private area to talk." The group soon walked towards the Hokage Tower that is located in the middle of the village. They could have sunshine there, but walking seems right at the moment. It took the group a few minutes to get to the tower. The group traveled in a diamond formation where Naruto was in the middle, the Sandaime up front, Kakashi and Kurinai at the back, Asuma and Gai to the left, and Kushina and Naomi to the right. All the while the group was taking glances at the blonde every few seconds, Kushina and Naomi more so than the rest. Kushina just couldn't believe that after all this time, he has returned to antagonize them. All she wanted was to have a happy life with her daughter, but no, he has to come back and ruin it all. She would have to teach that demon a lesson. While she was thinking that, Naomi had other thoughts. She was thinking about how familiar the aura of that mysterious person is, how she seemed to be calm and safe around the figure when they never even met once in their life. She wants to know who he is, and she wants to know now. Once the group arrived at the Hokage Tower, the Sandaime put a silencing seal on the room so no noise would escape the room, and no eavesdropper would know what they were talking about. Once the sealing was done, the Sandaime sat on his chair whilst Naruto took a seat in front of him with a bored look, and the others spread around the room, sticking with their buddy for now. Sandaime lit his pipe, and took a nice long breath before he spoke in a happy, but professional kind of tone. "So, after all these years you have returned to the village. Tell me, where have you been? I've been worried sick about you, you know?" Giving off a chuckle, Naruto replied in a cheerful tone. "Well, I didn't return to the village, more like force for now. And where have I been? Well, that's my little secret." His voice then turned serious. "I'm here for my inheritance, and I want it now. Every jutsu scroll and belonging my father has," stated Naruto. Sandaime choked on his pipe for a few seconds, surprised that Naruto knew who his father was, and was about to reply when Kushina interrupted him for the third time that day. You can't have that. That solely belongs to me. And, Naomi, you don't deserve that inheritance, demon, said Kushina with venom at the demon part, and caused the others that didn't know who the figure is to be confused. I believe that what you say is invalid for you. See, the inheritance will always belong to the male of the clan. Isn't that right? Ka-san stated the figure. This caused the Jounins, except Kushina and Naomi, went wide-eyed, as they never thought that Kushina/Ka-san had a son. This then led to screaming, as the Jounins and Naomi began to question Kushina about the figure's response. Before Kushina could say a thing, the Sandaime said, I believe what he said is true. After all, if the clan had died, the eldest son would take her place, which caused him to get a glare from Kushina, though he wasn't affected much. But sir, who is he? I don't know that Kushina-sama had a son, questioned Kurenai. I believe you all once knew him, since you guys did protect him when he was just a child, stated the Sandaime. That answer caused the Jounins to go wide eyes, as they knew who the Sandaime was talking about. Naruto. Naomi, the only one who doesn't understand, asked the question, who's Naruto Ka-san? And why does he feel so familiar? Her eyes are now on Kushina, as she is having a mental conflict between telling her daughter the truth that she has a twin brother, or lying to her, and breaking her trust. The former seemed to be the better option. Naomi-chan, started. Kushina is your twin brother, Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto. As soon as Kushina finished saying that, all eyes were upon Naomi, as they saw her widen her eyes to the size of an extra-large miso ramen with pork, and her loosened ever so lightly. She stared into the red abyss that is Naruto's eyes and couldn't help but feel lost in them. They were like a storm of fire that would scare most people, as it would emit heat like no other, but to her, it feels warm and cozy. She was broken out of her thoughts, as the people in the room heard a chuckle coming from Naruto. Once he finished, he said, well, it's nice to finally know that my mother admits that she has a son to her daughter, and my twin. But you did make one mistake, stated Naruto. Oh, really? And what is the mistake that I have made with my son? Said Kushina with sarcasm crystal clear in her voice. Well, my name is not Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto. It's just Namikaze Naruto. Since you decided to abandon me in this shithole of a village, I decided to abandon your name. And, besides, I'm not an Uzumaki anymore. Not after that event, stated Naruto, and, referring to the event where he disappeared, which everyone in the office realized by now. Sandaime, asking the question in everyone's mind, asked, what do you mean that you're not an Uzumaki anymore, Naruto-kun? Well, let me tell you a little story about the sword that I carry in my back, since I can trust you enough for it, though not the complete detail. Many millennia ago, there once lived a creature that has been said to be even stronger than the Jubi, and, before you interrupt me, yes, there is a Jubi. The Jubi is actually the combination of all the tailed beasts. You see, before the age of ninja, the Jubi roamed the land, and caused mayhem wherever he went, until a man that you all know from history books and legends appeared, the Sage of the Six Paths. The man sealed the Jubi inside of him, thus making him the very first Jinchuriki in the world. He became the Jinchuriki of the Jubi until he was finally at his last breath, where he used a jutsu to separate the Jubi's chakra into the bijus today, and sealed its body into the moon. Yes, the story is true, and I'm pretty sure that you know about it, right, Ji-san? Questioned Naruto, as he received a nod from Hiruzen. Now, as I was saying, there was a monster far stronger than that of the Jubi millennia ago, though one brave warrior, a hunter, faced the beast in battle that lasted a month, and slayed the beast. The result was that he collected the tail, shell, and claw of the beast into what you see today before you. This is where the 7 swordsmen of the mist got their ideas from. They saw the blade, and some decided to wield it, thought they were immediately incinerated by hot magma since the sword chooses its owner, not the other way around, finished Naruto. Once he finished, everyone in the room was gawking at how a man slayed a beast far stronger than the Jubi before the time of chakra. They were also amazed that the sword chose Naruto as its wielder. Kakashi then asked the question, what is the name of this monster? The name? Came the response of Naruto. Well, the name of said monster is a cantor, the god's slayer, and this blade, this is the byproduct of said monster, a cantor, the death bringer, Shini no Hakobishu, finished Naruto with a tone filled with pride and slight arrogance, just a bit. The people in the room were a bit creeped out at the name of the monster, and the blade, I mean a cantor, the god's slayer? It's like this monster is meant to bring the destruction of the world, and the byproduct of that monster seems like it's meant to carry on its legacy. Well, anyways, continued Naruto, what I meant that I'm not an Uzumaki anymore is just that, plain and simple. Its power influx during that incident caused part of my DNA to mutate into something completely different. Fortunately, my Namikaze blood still stands strong, but my Uzumaki blood has been morphed. I won't tell you the complete details because it seems that I have said too much for now. Now back to where we were before. I want my inheritance, said Naruto, leaking a bit of killing intent, which caused the Sandaime and Kushina to stiffen, the Jounins to feel like the gravity of the earth just tripled, though they managed to stand up, although barely, and it caused Naomi to collapse to her knees, and take big, heavy breaths. How about I make you a deal, Naruto-kun said to Sandaime, as he felt the pressure lift, and the others in the room were able to relax somewhat. How about you face your mother? He was stopped when he heard Naruto growl, as his eyes began to change from red to sickly yellow with slits, and the area around his eyes began to crack, similar to Sith eyes from Star Wars. I mean Kushina, to the right for the Namake's inheritance, and after that you could stay and continue your life in the village. Naruto put his hands on his chin, as though he was thinking, how about I fight Kushina, and get the hell out of here after I'm done beating the living shit out of her? Does that sound good? Replied Naruto. This surprised Sandaime and the others, as they thought that Naruto loved the village. What? Why would you leave the village that he was stopped by? Has abused me since the day I could walk, has ridiculed me, glared at me, throw rocks at me, and raped me physically and mentally for years. From Naruto, as he said the last part quietly so only the Sandaime could hear. He, Sandaime, felt really ashamed that all those things happened during Naruto's short life in Konoha. He felt so useless. He thought of all the things that Naruto had said, and decided very well, you will fight the people that I choose, including Kushina, for the right of the Namake's inheritance, and your freedom. But should you fail, you would remain in the village, and give it a second chance. For old time's sake, answered the Sandaime, getting a nod and a slight eye smile from the blonde with red streaks. The Sandaime said the tournament would occur in a month's time where our Jounins, and you could prepare for it. Do you have a place to stay or should I get you some accommodation? Asked the Sandaime. No need, I have my own place to live. See you in a month, Ji-san. Everyone, replied Naruto, as he disappeared into thin air without a sound, vanished, without a trace. Just like that. Getting out of their shock, Asuma asked, is it really okay to let him go like that? I mean, I know how much he means to you. I haven't seen you smile for more than 5 seconds when he disappeared. When he disappeared, well, you know what they say. If you love something/one, let them go, and be happy. From the older Sarutobi. With that, the Sandaime called for the Jounin meeting and discussed what had transpired here in the office a few minutes ago, excluding the fact about the sword's history and the Jubi. He has made a list of candidates for the upcoming tournament that would happen in a month that would determine the future of Konoha. Will it grow stronger once Naruto comes to their ranks, or will it fall? 1 month later, we now find Naruto and about 15 other people, all facing towards him with determination and anger in their eyes. Kushina, the 15 competitors in front of Naruto, is none other than Hatake Kakashi, a man who is apprenticed by the Yondaime Hokage, survived the Third Shinobi War, and a man who received the Sharingan from his deceased teammate, and have copied 1,000 jutsus. He wears the regular Jounin uniform, though he has a face mask similar to Naruto's, only midnight blue, and he has his Konoha headband tilted to the left, which covers his left eye. He also has silver-white hair that defies the laws of gravity itself. Next we see the son of the Sandaime Hokage, Sarutobi Asuma, himself attending this competition. He is doing this because he feels like he needs to repay his dad for taking care of him, even though he was a jerk in his younger days. And what better way to repay him that brings back the kid, makes his days seem lighter, back to Konoha where he belongs. Asuma wears the same outfit as Kakashi, only he has a white sash with the word fire, is it, on it on his waist. He has brown hair and eyes and has a cancer stick, cigarette, in his mouth. He took small puffs of smoke which indicate that he is either excited or nervous about this. Next to him stood Konoha's own Genjutsu mistress, and one of the 6 ice queens of Konoha. She is Kurenai Yuhi, and she is currently wearing what appear to be bandages in the form of a dress that doesn't halt her movement. She has jet black hair and a wavy-like haircut, and crimson-red eyes that spell beauty. Her reason for doing this is because she knew Naruto when he was just a kid, and helps protect him from the villagers that dare to go against Sandaime's law. She was also attracted to his looks, and if he stays in Konoha, the possibilities of them, together, in bed. She stopped that train of thought because a blush began to grow over her face, which didn't go unnoticed by the other Jounin/ANBs there. Beside her is none other than her best friend, and Konoha's snake mistress, also one of the 6 ice queens of Konoha. She is Anko Midarashi, and she is currently wearing a creamish tan high-collar trench coat that reaches her mid-thigh or knees. She is also wearing a mesh shirt with no bras, and a miniskirt that covers little to no skin on her body. She was also here for the same reason as Kurenai, only she has a crush on him because he has been through the same pain. as her, and they could understand each other somewhat. Next to her is the ever so cheerful and energetic Mato guy. He is probably the weirdest of the batch to describe in this FIC, but it's a must. Guy wears a green full-body jumpsuit that acts like a second skin, stripped orange warmers, and a jounin vest that goes over the jumpsuit. He also has jet black hair in the shape of a bull, and the biggest eyebrows anyone will ever see, though if you look closely, you could see the hidden strength behind the flames of youth. His reasons for being here are to test the flames of youth of the supposed heir of the Namikaze clan, and to see the once little Naruto go up against the toughest of the tough in the village. Beside him are one Gecko Hate and his best friend Yugao Yuzuki. They are considered to be Konoha's top swordsmen, and wanted to test themselves with someone with a sword that is similar to Kisame Hashigaki's Samahata. Hate wears the regular jounin uniform, only his headband is worn as a bandana, and he has dark rings under his eyes which indicates he is either sick or hasn't slept in a while. And, judging from the cough he is making every few seconds, it's the former. Yugao on the other hand is wearing her ANBU uniform without the mask on. She has dark purple hair and black eyes. They both have their swords strapped onto their backs and seem to be eyeing Naruto's sword, or in Yugao's case, Naruto. The Sandaime also assigned Tenzo or Tora for this occasion in case Naruto uses the Kyuubi's chakra and goes berserk. He wears the usual ANBU uniform with his tiger mask on, but you could see he has brown hair and brown eyes. He was one of Naruto's guardians when he was a child. Other than him, there are two more ANBU with different animal masks. One is a lion while the other is a falcon. They were assigned as an extra precaution for this event. There are also two random jounin whose purpose is backup and distraction for the other jounins. The other important people to attend this competition are Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina. She has long red fiery hair that reaches her lower thigh. Kushina has gray eyes that could calm even the most hostile of men, though right now, her gray eyes are set on one figure, and that is her own son Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Her reason for fighting her own son is for the right of the Namikaze inheritance, and to show to the world that her son died 15 years ago, and the one standing before them is the demon wearing her son's skin. She will avenge him, and her deceased husband. Last, but not least, is none other than Jiraiya of the Sannin himself. His reason for being here is to see his godson that he has neglected for all his life, and somewhat abandoned him just like his mother. He felt ashamed of what has transpired, and wants to correct them, and hopefully have a godfather-godson relationship. All the people that have gathered here today recalled how they managed to get in this situation, except for Kakashi because he was late to the meeting and missed out on it. Flashback a month ago, Hokage's office. A few minutes after Naruto left, the jounins in the red zone have gathered, and is waiting patiently for the Sandaime Hokage to address them, and that he did. Everyone, I am here to explain to you what has happened in the office with our guest. With that he explained that he is the last Namikaze male, and son of Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina, who is here for his inheritance and freedom. Of course the jounins in the room didn't believe a word he said before the Sandaime took out a folder from his drawers that had Naruto's DNA sample when he was a kid, with the Yandaimes and Kushinas. After that the others in the room stayed quiet, as they processed the information that they were given. After a few seconds of silence, the Sandaime spoke up again. Now that you know what happened, I will select a few of you, and a couple of ANBU for the tournament that will transpire in a month. I want to choose the best so that they could have at least a chance of injuring Naruto. I want him to stay in the village. This is where he belongs. With that, the Sandaime chose the competitors and I hope for the best. Flashback and present tournament arena. It seems that the word has spread throughout the whole nation that the Yandaime has a son, and is now fighting his mother for the right of the clan so that he could go somewhere out of the village. Since it has been made public to the people that Naruto is the son of Kushina Uzumaki and Namikaze Naruto, the villagers of Konoha have been terrified that they tortured the son of their hero, and wanted to apologize to him, but nobody had ever seen him during the 1-month time period. And, not only that, it seems that the daimyos of other nations and their respective kages have gathered for this tournament to determine the fate of the Namikaze clan. The kages from Kiri, Kumo, Suna, and even Iwa are now gathered into the Hokage platform in the arena. Even though it is a surprise that Anuki, Iwa's Tsuchikage arrived, it wasn't a surprise, as they guessed that he wants to see what could have been his future enemy fight to discover his weaknesses, if he has any. The Kage box has been very tense since this type of event has never transpired before, but to see the son of the Yandaime fighting with the Yandaimes, which is a chance too big to pass up. People from across the nation have gathered in the arena to see a fight full of legendary people. Even the newly graduated academy students are present in this event, as their senseis thought that this might be a good way to observe other ninjas fight without them having the chance of getting killed. All the rookies were excited about this, even Shikamaru, though he didn't show it like the others. Every one of the rookies are chatting with their groups about what will transpire in the arena, as they never had something like this before. One teenager fighting against 14 of the top jounins, and NBU in the village, the Sandaime must be desperate. Speaking of the teenager, everyone in the arena has set their eyes on him, as they took in his features. He is wearing what appears to be a ninja outfit fit for an NBU member of the Leaf Village. He wears long, black baggy jeans with many pockets that reach his ankle, steel-toed combat boots that seem to have hidden blades inside the sole of the boot. He also wore a sleeveless mesh shirt with a short-sleeved black shirt that hugs his body like a second skin, and shows off his six-packs. He is also wearing a midnight black gauntlet that covers the back of his right hand and forearm. It also has small spikes at the tip of his knuckles and leather protecting the rest of his right arm made of reptilian skin/armor. On his left he just wore the usual ANBU forearm armor, only midnight black with the same material. He also wears shin guards, though it could not be seen due to the long baggy pants. He wears ANBU-like vest armor, which is made of a material that could come from a lizard-like creature, dragon, and a black face mask similar to one Hitaki Kakashi only has crimson-red lines, similar to the color of magma, vertically running from both sides of his cheeks. The figure is also wearing what appear to be shoulder guards made of the same material as the vest and gauntlet. The odd thing is that his eyes were red like blood, and seemed to burn with a raging firestorm that could level the highest mountain and decimate a whole nation of ninjas. There are also what seems to be red, tear-like marks running down the bottom of his eyes and disappearing behind his face mask, like Ulquiorra. He also seems to have sunny blonde hair with red streaks here and there that is shaped in a similar fashion as the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju, his haircut. But what the people in the arena are watching carefully is the massive sword behind his back that could very well weigh a ton or more. It's nearly twice the size of Samahata, in the shape of a triangle, though it seems to be made of something that is considered to be a myth, dragon skin. The edges of the blade are made out of the toughest of all materials, even tougher than the Samahata. The blade also seems like it has a manga-like blade in the middle of it that makes it look even deadlier. Everyone, especially one Sasuke Uchiha, was wary of that sword because it seems to produce an aura of a wild beast. Speaking of the Uchiha, he is eyeing the figure, as if he was judging him to be lower than the dirt that he walks on, and, for those who consider him an Uchiha worshipper, pretty high by their standard. He is also keeping a close eye on the blade. It looks powerful, and he wants it. With that sword, he would be able to kill him. Once the fight is over, he will go to the council and demand them to tell Namikaze to hand it over or else. Back to the arena, the judge for the exam, which is the Sandaime himself, Sunshine into the middle of the field, and set up the rules, which is basically the same rules that they use for the Chunin exams, only no killing for the Jounins. There are too valuable to be killed. Though breaking bones, and doing damage that would leave a seasoned Jounin in the hospital for months is allowed. This made Naruto's eyes smile. When the Sandaime was about to start the competition, Naruto spoke. Hold on, 14 against one teenager? Isn't Gigi a little bit overkill? Well, technically it will be, but you and I never set the number of opponents you will have to face, which I took to my advantage, replied the Sandaime. There were a few seconds of awkward silence before Naruto said, fair enough. But you know, this makes you look desperate for me to come back. And what would happen if I won? It would make this village look weak. I know, started the Sandaime, it's a double-edged sword, but you returning to the village after so many years is worth the price, the Sandaime said with a hint of sadness. Sighing, Naruto nodded, and said, very well, I will put up a good show for you, Gigi. For old time's sake, right? Getting a smile from Sarutobi, and a grateful look in his eyes, Sandaime said, very well, before he shouted, I welcome you to the village hidden in the leaves, daimyos of your respective countries, and their respective kages. I know that this kind of event has never been recorded, but I hope you will enjoy the battle that will take place here between Naruto and Namikaze against some of Konoha's best. I would suggest that you relax on your seat, and enjoy the show, for the winner of this tournament would walk away with the Namikaze inheritance, though it has a blood seal on it, so anyone besides Kushina, the Yandaime's wife, or Naruto, the Yandaime's son, could not open. Basically it is pretty much worthless to the rest of you, gaining a sweat drop from the kages, audience, and competitors. But this competition is not only for the Namikaze inheritance, but for the alliance of Naruto Namikaze himself. This is supposed to be a village-only event, and I don't even know how word got out to the other countries, but I guess a fight between the strongest of Konoha's ninjas against the son of the Yandaime Hokage himself is too good to pass up. Anyways, I have said my piece, and now declare the tournament/competition/battle royal to start. Tournament. With that, the two Jounins in the group rushed towards Naruto, in speed that proves their ranks, before the other competitors in the area could huddle together and form a plan or tell the two idiotic Jounins to stop. Now most jounins would not rush like this, but they are extremely underestimating the blonde, for when the thought of them defeating the foul beast that is Naruto, they would be praised as heroes from the more hardcore Kyuubi haters and, to those who still believe that Naruto is the Kyuubi incarnate. With those thoughts in mind, they charged and drew kunais and put them in reverse grip, wanting to end the battle soon. But before the kunais could pierce the skin of Naruto, the massive blade located in Naruto's back is found between the two Jounin-level ninjas, and Naruto in a defensive/block position, which is pretty much the flat side of the wide Zanbato. CK, you know, it's not very smart to suddenly charge in like that. It could get you killed, especially when you underestimate your opponent, said Naruto in a calm voice, like he wasn't strained by the pressure of blocking two Jounin-level ninja with a massive blade, with one arm. After he said his piece, Naruto gripped the handle of the blade with both hands before he swung the blade like a baseball bat towards the far end of the arena wall, in which caused the two Jounins to be thrown like a rag doll. They were too surprised by the strength of the small figure to react upon that. Of course, before they hit the wall the two other Yanbiyu managed to catch them, though they were flung a few feet back. Even though they were adding chakra to their feet to help lessen the impact, many of the civilians, kages, and daimyos, were shocked at such strength being possessed by the young teenager for two reasons. The kid blocked two Jounin ninjas going at full speed with one hand, and massive blade that look as if it's impossible to even move, and 2, he just flung them back as easily as he blocked them. Of course, those who have been in the red zone knew of his strength, and are surprised that those Jounins act so immature in ninja standards. Once the Jounins were caught, Asuma and Kakashi started making hand signs for their jutsus, which is wind style, great breakthrough, and fire style, great fireball jutsu, respectively, whilst the others retreated far back to observe the blonde for an opening for them to attack. As Asuma and Kakashi unleashed their jutsus upon the blonde, it merged with one another, and produced a blue flame with a white middle hurtling towards the blonde. They just hope it wasn't an overkill, but knowing what Naruto could do so far, it wasn't a surprise they have to go beyond overkill just to bring him down. Just as the jutsu was about to hit Naruto, a stream of magma erupted from the ground, and surrounded Naruto in a magma-hot shield in the shape of a sphere. As the jutsu hit, an explosion rocked the arena before a cloud of dust gathered around Naruto, shielding him from view. Once the dust settled in, you could see a glowing sphere of magma that surrounded Naruto to be completely unscathed. This of course surprised those around the area, for the combination jutsu that is performed by Asuma and Kakashi could be considered an S-rank jutsu, and, knowing that the blonde has a defense mechanism that could deflect an attack of such magnitude without the defense failing for even a second, goes to show that this could be one heck of a fight. This also surprised a certain female Mizukage, for she thought that she and her clan are the only ones that are capable of doing U-turn techniques. Though something was odd about that U-turn, it seems to be more hotter. Of course, having that thought in mind made her think of the blonde Adonis behind the magma shield who's wielding a massive blade. She blushed at that innuendo, that went unnoticed by the others, as they were too engrossed in the fight for anything. Once the dust completely settled, the magma dome completely dissolved into watery magma again before disappearing to whom knows where. As it disappeared, the blonde chuckled before saying, "That's a nice way to start the fight. Send a flaming hot fireball towards me to burn me to a crisp. I thank you for your generosity." The sarcasm is completely clear in his voice. Asuma and Kakashi were decent enough to look sheepish with a sly grin, and an eye smile, which Naruto returned before he disappeared from view, and ended up between the two with his hands at his back aiming for a horizontal swing with his blade. It is only due to reflexes from being the daimyo's personal bodyguard, and surviving the third shinobi war that Asuma and Kakashi was able to dodge such a quick strike, though they were surprised when a thin line appeared on the wall of the stadium after Naruto was his slash. They now realized that Naruto must have put more power to his swing than they ever thought he could, and was even more wary of the blonde's strength. Once Asuma and Kakashi were far enough from the blonde, Guy rushed in with a shout of Konoha whirlwind, whilst Enko and Kurenai jumped up high with kunais in both their hands ready to attack the blonde. One guy flung him towards the air. What they did not expect was for him to stab his sword to the ground, and jump up high and catch both the female's hand, and twirls them around before shooting them towards the male members of their group. When this occurred, Guy had too much momentum to stop his kick from the painful looking and hard blade, so he decided instead of stopping, he would kick the blade to separate it from its wielder, and have either one of the Anbu or Jounin to wield it. Once he made contact, he wasn't expecting a searing hot pain in his right leg, as the blade held its ground. With that, he retreated towards his allies to let the burn cool down, and leg to get used to the pain before going back to the fight. As Kakashi and Asuma caught the kunoichi that was flying towards them, and laid them slowly towards the ground. Asuma looked at Kakashi before giving him a quick nod, as if they had mentally formulated a plan, which they did since they had been friends since they were in the academy, even if it only lasted for a while. Asuma dashed towards Naruto with his trench knives in both hands, and, when chakra charged into them, he made contact with Naruto just as he landed to the ground, and, what surprised him is the way he blocked his wind-powered knives, with his arm guards. Asuma knew that some swords were able to block his knives, but arm guards? Seriously? It must have been made of some pretty strong material to be able to withstand a blade that could easily cut through a boulder like a hot knife through butter. It didn't matter though, as this was part of the plan. Once both of Naruto's hands were occupied, Kakashi would charge in from behind Naruto, in which he did because we now find Kakashi having a kunai, in a reverse grip, pointing towards the blonde's neck. Well, it looks like we didn't have to go all out after all, Kakashi stated. The crowds in the stand were a bit disappointed for they didn't see much, and the Kages and daimyos were about to throw a fit for traveling this far for nothing, but before they could say anything, the blonde spoke. You should learn from your other Jounin teammates to never underestimate me with that. Naruto started to glow an eerie red before exploding into magma. Again, Asuma and Kakashi were saved from the attack by reflexes honed from years of training and experience, though that didn't mean they didn't leave without scorch marks here and there. We really need to stop underestimating him, shouldn't we, say Guy? And, before any of the others could answer, a voice from behind him said yes, you should. With that, Guy was sent flying forward, but before he could hit the wall, he flipped and landed on his legs, though he left a decent-sized crater in the wall due to the force from the punch or kick. That did not end though, as the two ANBUs and other two Jounins jumped into action to distract and stall the teenager. This happened after one of the ANBU discreetly told Kakashi to huddle up with the others and formulate a plan to use against the blonde. With that, Kakashi and the other Jounins and Tenzo jumped towards where Kushina and Jiraiya was standing, observing the blonde's move carefully. They were discussing their plan whilst they observed the blonde defend from the NBU's and Jounin's assault. They saw him jump towards his sword and either block or parry their attacks that he was given with twice the force and damage. He truly is amazing. As they were discussing, Naruto was having the time of his life. He could show what Konoha has finally done to him. He could show them that they have let go and abused a jewel that can only be found once every millennia, and could only be found in the shaft of a volcano hundreds of meters below the Earth's surface. He will finally show them what he has accomplished by himself, but right now, he wants to end these weaklings to catch a much more bigger fish, and with that he separated from the four shinobi, who seemed to have been through a war, and back and nicked his thumb on his blade before rapidly making hand signs in speed that the Sharingan would be hard-pressed to copy. Once he finished his hand signs, which only took a span of a half a second, he slammed his hands off the ground, and a large puff of smoke appeared in the arena, which caught the attention of the other competitors since they had finished planning their next move. A large roar could be heard from inside the cloud of smoke, and the ninja in the vicinity could tell that this summon would be dangerous, if the roar was any indication of its size and power, since animals with great strength tend to show off by roaring. Once the smoke cleared, it shocked the people in the arena, as they had never come across a creature so beautiful yet deadly in their lives. In the smoke, Naruto is standing on top of what appears to be a triceratops-like creature, only it seems to have a bigger skull-like head with more bone-like padding on its head, and all over its body, with distinct patterns on them. It also has smaller horns, but just because it's small doesn't mean it's not dangerous. Two of these creatures stood before Naruto, as he stood or sat on top of one, which is bigger than the other one by a meter, body size-wise. People, let me introduce to you my summons. They don't have a specific name since there are too many of them to name, and they tend to not care about such trivial things, so I'll just tell you their species. These are what is known as arena plos, and, as an act of kindness, here's a tip. Don't get in their way, said Naruto, and, with that, the Renaplos charged towards the group of ninjas, but not before sending the two tired ANBU and Jounin towards the walls, clearly knocked out if the lack of movement is any indication. The group that consists of Kakashi, Asuma, Guy, Kurenai, Enko, Kushina, and Jiraiya had one thing in mind besides throwing their previously plan out the window. Fuck. The ninjas scattered around the arena to make sure that these Renaplos could not trample them like a bowling game, them being the pins that is. It could have worked, if they didn't count the sudden burst of a reptilian-like creature appearing from the ground. It has yellowish-brown skin with a small tuft of yellow hair behind their heads, and a tail that seems to be built for swimming on water, not ground. They weren't expecting this type of attack, so Kurenai and Enko were not prepared, and got scratched in their legs, and only the most experienced one managed to dodge unscathed. Once the creature already emerged from the ground, It surrounded the two Renaplos in a semicircle towards the group of shinobi that had been rounded up like a shepherd rounded up its sheep. Before anyone could make a move, Naruto spoke with a nervous chuckle. "Oh yeah, I would be careful about them too. These Ludroth may not look like much alone, but, as a pack, they could take down the toughest of enemies." In which he received a mild glare from some of the shinobi from forgetting to mention about those creatures. They see a total of 2 Renaplos, and 6 Ludroth, who were hissing, Ludrath, and roaring, Renaplos at them. Now the numbers have changed from 14 against 1 to 7 against 9. It seems that payback truly is a bitch. With that, they all prepared to take on the small group of strange, unknown yet powerful summons, and its summoner. It's going to be one hell of a battle. We now find the gathered jounin to begin to panic, as their chances of defeating Naruto slimmed down, but that doesn't mean they would go down without a fight. Tenzo, or known as Yamato to his peers, started making hand signs, and, within seconds, he called out the technique with style. 4-pillar prison. A prison-like structure made out of wood started to erupt from the ground, trapping the Renaplos, and Naruto inside, whilst the Ludroth all hissed at Tenzo before they dived into the ground, and seemingly disappear, only to re-emerge from the ground a few seconds later in the middle of their group, and tackled the surprised Jounins and Sannin. They were about to counter when an explosion and splinters of wood that had been launched towards them halted their movements. They looked to the place where the wooden prison that was supposed to hold Naruto for a few minutes was destroyed within seconds. They knew how strong that prison is, and to see it so easily destroyed by the bigger Renaplos is a feat like no other. The distracted Jounin and Sannin were unaware of the danger that was fast approaching them, as they had their sights on Naruto and his Renaplos. They were once again attacked from below the ground by a couple of Ludroth, which caused them to scatter into groups of 2. Kurenai with Enko, Kakashi with Asuma, Guy with Tenzo, and, finally Kushina with Jiraiya. The Ludroth have also divided, as pairs. 2 of them are facing Kurenai and Enko. The same goes for Kakashi and Asuma and Guy and Tenzo. Kushina and Jiraiya wondered why they weren't fighting anything, or anyone, and was about to ask, but was halted by Naruto saying, "I'm sure you're wondering where your opponents are, but you'll be fighting me. After all, they always said save the best." For last he finished with a smile, as he sat on top of the Renaplos, wanting to enjoy the show that his summons would provide against the top Jounins of Konohagakure no Sato. Seeing their supposed enemy relax on top of his summon, Jiraiya and Kushina relaxed too, and observed the fight that would take place, hoping to learn whatever weakness that they could for the next upcoming fight if they have to fight against the Ludroth. Once Naruto finished sitting, the Ludroth charged towards their respective enemies, with Enko and Kurenai. These duos were not having a good time. Why? Because it is extremely difficult to fight an enemy when he's a freaking Adonis. They couldn't take their eyes off his body, and the face, although the mask covered what could have been a face that was sculpted by the very god that they worship, for a few minutes before they have to ogle him. He is just so hot, they screamed in their minds. They couldn't resist the girly urges that they have been able to hold down ever since they were Genins, but right now, they are dodging the lizards of death that call themselves Ludroth, and couldn't help but be amazed at how Naruto got 2 contracts. It seems though, that the Ludroth are not meant to cause great damage to their bodies. They don't know if they are soft to women, perverts, or are ordered to, but they were glad that they won't end up naked after dodging their sharp scales, fin, claws, and teeth. Tired of dodging, Kurenai and Enko started to back away from them to gain some distance, and started doing hand signs for a fire jutsu. Once they were done, they called out their technique fire style, Grand Fireball Jutsu, and, with that, they simultaneously sucked in a big breath of air, and unleashed a massive fireball twice the size of an average man. The fireball was about to hit the target before the Ludroth seemed to suck in some air before spitting out a stream of muddy water or mud towards the fireball, which dispersed once it made contact with a liquid and element that is made to subdue a flame-based element. Once the steam had lifted, Enko did another set of hand signs whilst Kurenai pulled out a few of kunai and shuriken in either hand, and launched it at the charging Ludroth. Kurenai launched her kunai that had exploding notes attached to their handle at the Ludroth closest to her. As Enko was running towards the furthest Ludroth with a shout of hidden shadow snake hands, the kunai that hit the legs of the Ludroth exploded, and hurled the Ludroth back a few meters before stopping, and seemingly took little to no damage from that explosion. The snakes that was sent from the ever-bloodthirsty Enko towards the Ludroth at the back was halted when the reptilian creature roared, and the snakes halted in their tracks, shrieking in pain, as the roar has a higher pitch hidden that could only be heard by other reptilian creatures. It's usually a sign of dominance for other reptiles that are trespassing in one's territory. The snakes that were sent to bite or strangle the Ludroth dispersed in a puff of smoke, leaving Enko wide open for an attack. Before both women could get over their shock at such a feat that the reptilian creature had pulled, the Lidroth charged towards the two unprepared women, and tackled them towards the wall, which left a decent-sized dent. They were about to jump away, but were struck by a river of mud which seemed to harden as soon as it made contact with their skin. They couldn't move a muscle, only their head was clear of the mud, but it's better than having mud covering their faces and suffocating them. Looking towards her left where Anko is located, she spoke, "Well, this sucks, but we could at least look at the bright side. We always wanted to try one of those mud pools in the spas, and we got one for free." She chuckled at the end of the sentence, followed by Anko, as they relaxed with their eyes closed, and wishing to have a cucumber in their eyes, but they decided to watch the rest of the battle, which led them to Kakashi's and Asuma's battle whilst the Lidroth stood near them, acting as guards so that no one would be able to interfere their relaxing time or letting them escape. With Kakashi and Asuma were having a better time than a pair of hot kunoichis. Of course they would. One was apprenticed by the Yondaime himself, and is the son of the White Fang of Konoha, Hatake Tsukumo, whilst the other is the son of the Sandaime Hokage, the professor or god of shinobi, and was once the daimyo's own personal guard. But just because they have a neat background doesn't mean that they were prepared to fight this type of monster, especially one as unique and unknown as these Lidroth. They have been dodging their attack to figure out what weaknesses these monsters have, and it's getting really tiring. Once they dodged another tackle and slash from the monster, they started their attack. Asuma did some hand signs and said wind style, dust storm, and unleashed a storm of dust towards the two reptilian creatures. While this was happening, Kakashi ran towards the only water source in the arena, which is a small pond a few meters southeast from the center of the circular arena. Once he reached there, Asuma had unleashed his jutsu to blind the two reptiles, and did some hand signs with speed that could only be mastered by years and years of training. Once done, he called out water style, dual water dragon jutsu, and a second later, two huge dragon made out of water emerged from the small pond, and rushed towards the two Lidroth, who were caught off guard since they could not see the technique. The technique hit the monsters head on, and launched them towards the wall of the arena, where it stood still for a second before it recovered with a mighty roar. Both the Lidroth sucked in air, as much as their lungs could handle, and unleashed a torrent of muddy water towards Kakashi, who was now surprised to move, since the Lidroth had just recovered the second after being hit by a water dragon of that magnitude. Asuma, seeing his friend still in shock, launched himself towards Kakashi and stood in front of him whilst he called out the jutsu that he has been preparing after the water hit the Lidroth. Though before Asuma called out the jutsu, he clasped his hands together and pointed it towards his front in a shape of an arrow, and said wind style, arrow defense. The muddy water hit the arrowhead of wind before the wind split it in two, and forced the water to go to either the left or right side of Asuma and Kakashi, who has gotten out of his shock the moment Asuma jumped in front of him and defended him. Good old Konoha teamwork. The Lidroth, seeing their attack be halted or split in this case, didn't let up their relentless assault on the now immobilized Jounins, as they knew if the Jounin in the back jumped up into the sky, one of them, Lidroth, would be able to hit him with the torrent of water in their face, and send them spiraling back into the cold, muddy ground that is the arena. A few seconds later, we find Asuma breathing hard, and sweat dripping off of his forehead, from blocking an attack of such force and pressure for a long period of time. Kakashi, seeing his friend straining under the pressure, decided to unravel his Sharingan, and I was shocked for about the 100th time that day, to find out that the attack did not use any chakra at all. These things are monsters, he thought. If only he knew. He pushed those disturbing thoughts out of his mind, as he began to make three-hand signs for his signature move. He gathered the amount of chakra, and unleashed it. The people in the stadium, who were shocked beyond anything that these monsters/summons were able to go toe-to with Konoha's elite, and the teenager himself being capable of defeating two ANBU and Jounin level ninja in a minute, heard what could only be described as 1,000 birds chirping in no consecutive rhythm. Their eyes were drawn towards the glowing blue hand, giving off sparks of electricity, of one Kakashi Hatake. Some already knew what this meant while others were intrigued about this technique that Kakashi is about to use. Once Kakashi's jutsu reached its maximum damage point, he charged past Asuma while whispering, "You've done enough. Rest for now while I take care of them," and rammed his lightning-covered fist towards the water jets, shouting lightning blade. Kakashi thrust his hands forward, and added chakra to his feet to gain enough friction to charge forward in a faster pass, which was possible due to lightning's ability to be able to pierce anything. Kakashi was only a or two from the two reptiles before he realized that the current of the water seemed to weaken, and before he could register what has happened, one of the Lidroth landed on top of his body while wrapping its tails around the lightning-covered fist, and slammed it towards the ground, causing an explosion, and covered both their bodies. With Asuma, Asuma, on the other hand, was sent towards the muddy ground due to the loss of the shield that is Kakashi. He was not prepared to move after using that much chakra on a wind technique of such caliber, and was hit with a full blast of water to the face. If you're wondering why the Ludroth that got Kakashi pinned didn't stop the water, it's because the Ludroth has scales, and usually water just rolls off of it, which happened. When the Ludroth that was spewing out the torrent's water halted its assault, it saw that Asuma was knocked out near the base of a tree near the wall of the arena, clearly unable to continue the fight, and the only one left for its opponent is Kakashi. With Kakashi, the dust that covered the body of the Ludroth that had Kakashi pinned settled down, only for the Ludroth to roar, and temporarily caused deafness for Kakashi. The Ludroth then jumped off of Kakashi and saw that Kakashi straight away jumped out of the small crater, as a Ludroth that has buried half its body in the mud tried to bit his left leg. The only reason he dodged was due to his sense of smell, and the slight vibration that he is feeling through the slightly numb limbs. Kakashi knew that then, and there, he was outmatched and outlasted. These things could probably last another hour of fighting. What kind of creature are these? It's like they were born to be the ultimate fighting machine. Getting those thoughts out of his mind, he decided, if he was going to fail, he might as well go out with a bang. With that in mind, Kakashi straight away charged up a lightning blade in both hands, and charged forward, wanting to end the battle before he was knocked out due to either the Ludroth or chakra exhaustion. The Sharingan dual lightning blade equals not good for his reserves. Kakashi was now on his last ropes, as he charged towards the Ludroth that had regrouped, and launched a torrent of muddy water towards him. Kakashi stretched out his hands with a scream, and plunged through the torrent only to reappear behind the Ludroth, only to collapse, as his upper shirt was shredded by the pressure of the water, and, due to exhaustion, as he fell, one of the Ludroth disappeared in a puff of smoke, while the other just landed face first towards the muddy ground, due to the wound it received on the right shoulder. Epic, with Guy and Tenzo. The duo, so far, are faring better than the other Jounin due to the perfect combination of their respective skills, Guy with his speed and strength, and Tenzo with his long-range assault and defense. They make a perfect team, though it seems that they are slowly losing their strength due to blocking powerful claw strikes that could leave a decent-sized mark in the ground, tree or wall, and, due to the sheer size and raw power that the Ludroth has under its sleeve or scale, we now find Guy kicking one of the Ludroth in various places that he thought would be the weak spots, since it does help with normal reptilian summons, though this was not the case right now, as the Ludroth have a tougher muscle quality than other lizards/reptiles, and their thick scale helps lessen the impact too. Guy was about to give one more final kick with all his might before the Ludroth's tail grabbed onto his legs, and squeezed it hard, nearly breaking his bones since it was the same leg that was injured due to the sword, though before the leg could be broken, Ludroth was stopped by the approach of the other Ludroth, who was flying towards him after being thrown by Tenzo's wood style. Once the Ludroth hit the other, the grip on Guy's legs loosened, and, as soon as it did, Guy leapt towards the location of Tenzo in an attempt to gain some distance from the obviously strong summons. Tenzo was about to do some hand signs and call out the wood-style four-pillar prison when another puff of smoke seemed to appear. They looked towards their right only to see another Ludroth, only it seemed bigger and hairier, and, true to their words, it is another Ludroth, only it was twice their size, which makes them about 8 to 10 meters tall. It also has a huge mane similar to a lion, and, having the same color tone as the other Ludroth's mane. They were surprised by this since they never thought another bigger version of the monster that everyone is having trouble with would appear, and perform a mighty roar that shook the arena slightly. As the Royal Ludroth finished its roar, it charged towards the two Jounin-level ninjas with speed that seemed impossible for its size and length. Though, as the Royal Ludroth charged towards the two shinobi, it opened its mouth and unleashed an even bigger torrent of water towards them, which knocked them back a few meters. Since Tenzo, did you have enough time to bring out a defense? Once the two Jounin recovered, they saw the Royal Ludroth standing in front of the other two Ludroth, as if protecting them. Guy, wanting to finish this, removed his weights and opened the first 3 gates and charged towards the Royal Ludroth, only to be halted by the other two Ludroth that has recovered under the impression of proving to their Ludroth leader that they are worthy of being part of the Royal Guard and elites of the Ludroth clan. It took both Ludroth to stop Guy from reaching their leader, each by biting down one of Guy's legs. The one that bit Guy's right leg seemed to break it due to the extensive damage that has happened to that leg, having kicked a sword that is harder than the strongest steel, and, having it being slightly crushed by one of the Ludroth, is really taking a tax on his leg, so he was forced to close the gates and retreat to let his leg rest. Taking the retreating form of Guy as a sign to attack, the Royal Ludroth charged towards Tenzo, who was preparing hand seals, which he finished in time, and called out wood style, wood locking wall. As soon as he said that, wood sprouted from the ground, and covered Yamato and Guy in a semi-sphere-like shape which blocked the royal Ludroth, only for it to bite on the top part of the semi-dome and rip it off. Tenzo was lucky enough to dodge the sudden slash from the claws of the royal Ludroth before he was mauled into minced meat. Of course, he didn't forget about Guy, as he carried the injured taijutsu master to safety, only to have the other two Ludroth to bat them away with their tails and separate them. The royal Ludroth went towards Tenzo while the other two Ludroth went towards Guy. With Guy is not having a good time. He just broke his right leg, which happened to be his main kicking leg, and he was whacked across the arena by a powerful tail, and it hurts like a bitch. Currently, he has to fight against two Ludroth, which he had trouble fighting one of them with both legs, and now he only has one against two. Life is so unyouthful, thought Guy, as he observes his opponents. He only has a second to think of a plan, as the Ludroth launched at him with their mouths open wide, wanting to take a bite at the green spandex-wearing Jounin, only for the Jounin himself use his hands to lift his body, and dodge them, and move to an awkward stance. How many people look at the stance that Guy took is odd, but nonetheless effective. Guy is now standing on his hands with his face filled with determination looking towards his opponents. His left leg stood attention, muscle tensed and ready for anything it is given, while his right leg stood limply off the side of his body, even though it is broken, and is giving him waves of pain every time he tenses or moves the muscle. He is ready to use that leg if it means he could beat one of them. There was a tense silence between the reptiles and Guy, each one judging their opponent with a keen eye. Nothing else mattered between them, not the slippery muddy ground, not the constant roar and cheer of the crowd, not even the rapid thumps of their hearts, nothing. A few more seconds later, the tense silence was broken by the movement of one of the Ludroth, as the other spewed out a torrent of water towards Guy. It seems that the Ludroth purposely hit the other one to increase the momentum of the charge, and cause more damage to Guy, but Guy was not going to give up now. If his eternal rival could unsummon one of them, then he could too. Using all the muscle he has on his arms, he charges towards every speeding bullet that is the Ludroth. During his charge, Guy has unleashed the fourth gate to gain momentum, speed, and, with that, comes strength/power. Guy and the water-powered Ludroth meet in the middle, and clash. A wave of explosion occurs, and a big dust cloud covers the arena like a storm in Hawaii. The stadium shook under the shockwave that was created by the clash. As the audience waited patiently on what would happen, they don't know who would come out of the smoke, and who would be victorious in this battle, as they were now doubted that they might be able to win against an opponent as strong as Naruto and his summons, especially the big ones. Before the audience could think further on that situation, a green glow seems to have escaped the smoke's grasp and is currently charging towards the remaining Ludroth. The green blur is then revealed to be Guy, a really beaten up and bruised Guy. You could clearly see that his right leg is hindering his movements, and you could also see the after effects of activating the fourth gate, while not opening the first three. Guy's muscle was strained, and it hurts to even move his awesomely huge eyebrows, but for the Sandaime, he must continue. Using that ever-strong flames of youth, Guy pressed forward, and crashed to the Ludroth, making it slid back a few meters before it stopped, and collapsed due to the heat that was caused by the first clash, and due to the friction which generates heat energy, followed closely by Guy, as he was exhausted for using the gate, while on his hands, and crashing on the enemy twice in a row. I just hope that this would be sufficient enough to bring Naruto back. Good luck Jiraiya-sama. Kushina-sama. With those final thoughts, Guy succumbed to his highly needed sleep. Epic, with Tenzo. Tenzo, a man who was said to be as emotionless as a root operative during missions, is now screaming like a little girl, as the royal Ludroth tried to either chomp, slash, cut or shred him to pieces. He is terrified. All he was supposed to do is help the other Jounin in case Naruto ever uses the Kyuubi's chakra, and go berserk. But now, he is fighting his own battle with a monster that won't give him a break, currently jumping from one place to another, as he tried to gain distance between him and the beast before him. He is hard-pressed, as the reptile is faster and more agile than the others that he has faced. A few minutes of dodging, screaming, and praying later, Tenzo was far enough to call upon his technique, which he shouted water style, tearing torrent. The gathered water in his palm shot forward in an attempt to hit the reptile, and at least injure it, only for it to be blocked by another powerful torrent coming out of the mouth of the royal Ludroth. They battle for dominance, as they keep on pushing more chakra/water in their attack, trying to overpower the other. Being a massive beast such as the royal Ludroth, it comes with a few quirks, one being that its attacks are far stronger than the regular Ludroth, as it is able to keep the water torrent longer than the regular. It was soon clear that Tenzo was losing this battle, as the muddy torrent coming from the royal Ludroth was starting to get closer towards him, until it did, and launched him towards an unexpected tree. He landed with a grunt of pain, and started another technique, which he said would style tree by and flourishing burial. As soon as he said that, hundreds of small, little roots sprouted from below the royal Ludrath, and began to encase it in a cocoon of wood which soon started to appear like a tree. But before the tree could encase the face and neck of the royal Ludrath, it launched a powerful stream of muddy water towards Tenzo, and promptly knocked him back towards the wall of the arena. He could have escaped, but the mud started to harden the same way it did with Kurenai and Enko, only this time, it's quicker and stronger. Tired because of the previous technique, he decided that now is the best time to rest. Even though he didn't manage to dispel the summon, he managed to trap it for now. With Naruto, now that all the Jounins and Anbu have been taken care of, he turned his attention back to his supposed godfather and mother before saying, now that the annoying bugs have been dealt with, we could finally fight in peace a battle between families that would decide the fate of the clan and its alliance. He finished with a laugh filled with mirth that irked a few shinobis in the area. He leaped down from the renaplos and said, "So, shall we dance?" The new team that has recently graduated from the academy, also known as the Rookie Nine, consisting of 1. The ever-stoic Shino Aburame, son of Shibi Aburame, and Maya Aburame, heir to the clan, and an expert at tracking, espionage, and infiltration. Shino wore a large trench coat with a hood and high collar that covered his entire body, face including. He has brown shaggy hair underneath the hood, brown eyes that are covered by small, circular sunglasses similar to one that his father wears. Shino, while watching the match, could not determine what type of animals that this Naruto had summoned. Being from a clan that specializes in bugs, the family have thought that it would be useful if they learn about reptilian-like creatures due to the fact that some reptiles love bugs. If they happen to run across a ninja who summons one of those reptiles, the Aburames would be prepared to counter. But right now, he or any Aburame could not place the type of reptile that Naruto has summoned, and the name Ludrath seems foreign to their tongue. Deciding to let those trains of thoughts go for now, he decided to observe Naruto and break down his battle tactics that so far he cannot decide, mainly because he only fought for a few minutes before the summons took over. That short amount of time that Naruto took to defeat the two Jounin and Anbu was not enough to determine his fighting style and weakness. Perhaps during the battle with the Sannin and the wife of the Yondaime would be sufficient. He sit there, patiently waiting for when the blonde would attack. 2. The Rookie Nine also consists of Hinata Hyuga, daughter of Hayashi Hyuga and Hitomi Hyuga, and also heir of the ever-prestigious Hyuga clan. She is also a part of the Ice Queens of Konoha due to her cruel way of rejecting males that ever ask her out, or even assist her on something that she doesn't need assistance in. She also has the tendency to Jyunkin anyone who tries to show off their strengths in front of her, which only serves to annoy her to no end. She wears the traditional battle kimono for a Hyuga, which is mainly white in color. She has an unemotional look in her face, or it could also be as an arrogant that is ever present in the faces of the clan, though if one were to look closely, they would see a small amount of discomfort in her face, and that is due to her thoughts. Her thoughts. Father has always taught me that power is everything in the clan. Right now, I see a man, a teenager my age, with power to be able to beat 6 Konoha elites, and what's more is that he hasn't revealed anything about that sort of his. Does this mean he is the one? That power, it's driving me crazy. I want it, and I want him, having that type of power. And, man beside me, it's giving me dirty thoughts, not her thoughts. And true to her words, she is having dirty thoughts about the teenager, of him strapping her to his bed with rope made of reptile scales, and lizard-like tails touching every inch of her body, while his big huge D aligning itself in her entrance before he plunged. She stopped that train of thought there before anyone would notice her flushed face, and also notice the small wet spot that is located in between her legs. Getting her train of thoughts right, she continued to watch what could be her future husband talking to Kushina-sama and Jiraiya-sama about fighting, though what she did not know is that because of the wet spot, she produced an aroma that could not be smelled by the average human nose, only those who have trained them, which leads us to Kiba Inuzuka. 3. Kiba Inuzuka, also part of the Rookie Nine, have always set his lust-filled pheromone-controlled eyes at Hinata Hyuga, probably the only one who is either brave enough, or stupid enough, to confront her after the first Juken strike. Let's just go with the later. Also son of Tsum Inuzuka and some unknown Inuzuka who has raped Tsum due to pheromones and urges when she was just a Chunin, and also the heir to the Inuzuka clan, though it is being debated by the Inuzuka elders on who would be the next clan head. Hana Inuzuka, the true daughter of the previous clan head before he died in battle, or Kiba, though the votes seem to go to Hana. Right now, Kiba has smelled a sweet vanilla-like scent mixed with honey coming from Hinata, and knew exactly what it meant, since he had smelled it once in his life, and asked his mother about it. He shifted his head to look at her, and saw her looking at this Naruto figure. He growled in anger and jealousy. He wanted that Hyuga bitch. He wanted her since they started the academy, and for years he has tried to get her attention, and now this no-named loser just appeared out of nowhere, challenged the Sannin and Konoha's elite, and took the heart of Hinata Hyuga in an instance. That made him angry. It is obvious by the way he has those thoughts that he is not very smart and well informed about the current situation of the no-named loser. He has observed the figure since he started to summon those monsters, and hell, he was really surprised that every time they roar, Akamaru and some of the canines in the vicinity whimpered in submission. There is something off about that loser, and he wants to find out what. If he could get the secret for attracting Hinata from him, then that bitch, and any other bitch in the village would be mine, he thought with a cruel smirk adoring his face. For now, he would ignore Akamaru's constant whimpering, seeing it as a sign of weakness, when in fact it's a sign of accepting that stranger down in the arena is the alpha of all alpha, and continue to observe the loser. 4. Next on the line was none other than Konoha's next top strategist, Shikamaru Nara, son of Konoha's current top strategist, and most probably also known as Konoha's laziest strategist, Shikaku Nara, and Yoshino Nara. He is also the heir to the Nara clan, and is wearing a long-sleeved shirt that is only slightly bigger for better movement, the usual shinobi pants with tape going over his right thigh, and a vest similar to a Chunin vest draped over the shirt. He is currently observing the blonde for what seemed to be the 100th time. He just couldn't figure the guy out. He is so unpredictable that it's not even funny. The way he moves, it's like he's holding back. He doesn't waste a move, doesn't let his guard down even though he is watching his summons battle. And his eyes, his red/amber eyes shows experience, not with ninjas, but with something bigger, more vicious, and definitely more deadly. Sighing to himself, and thinking that this blonde is probably the most troublesome person in the nation, and would be even more troublesome in the future, he waited until he actually fights Jiraiya-sama and Kushina-sama before he could gauge his skill as an individual. But judging by the strength of his summons, he must be really strong. With that, he put his keen eyes on the blonde again, trying not to miss any details that could be vital for the future of this village or ninjas. 5. Beside Shikamaru is his best friend Chuji Akimichi, son of Chuza Akimichi and Keiko Akimichi, also the heir of the Akimichi clan, known for their Harem plump bodies and massive strength. Chuji is wearing the regular Akimichi battle robe in the color red, with samurai-like armor adoring his chest and waist. He has recently stopped eating his endless supply of barbecue chips that he somehow always has on his person. Don't ask where he keeps them, for even I don't know. As I was saying, Chuji has foregone eating his chips the moment Naruto summoned those reptilian creatures, and had them engage the Jounin down in the arena. Some point during the match, Chuji's bottom mouth has loosened from the top half, and now lay on the ground, where a pair of birds just nestled in their new nest after placing some twigs and leaves near the jagged rocks that is Chuji's teeth. Chuji, not realizing he has a bird's nest at the bottom of his mouth, since he is too preoccupied with a match that has knocked out his sensei, Asuma, started to pull out a pack of popcorn from somewhere, and began to shove it up his mouth. The first few bites seem odd to him due to the squishy and feathery quality of the popcorn, but took that as a new flavor. During all this, he and the others completely missed the sounds of panicking birds and the sound of crushing bone, as they were chewed to death by the Akimichi. Poor birds. 6. Ino Yamanaka, also a member of the Rookie 9, daughter of Inoichi Yamanaka, second in command of the TI department, and Miho Yamanaka, is eyeing the blonde Adonis like a piece of meat, which every female in the vicinity, whether they have boyfriend or are married, is doing. She is enjoying the fact that every time the blonde moves, his muscle ripple, and his shirt compresses to his body, showing more of that six-pack that she is drooling at. When the male blonde first appeared in the arena, she would admit that he is hot, and would probably be nothing compared to Sasuke, but after seeing him fight in the first few minutes of the tournament, she knew that Sasuke could never do what this Naruto could, and that fact was also proven when Naruto summoned these monsters, and had them battle with the Jounin. OMG, forget Sasuke, I want him! She screamed in her mind. She could probably have an orgasm right now if it wasn't in public, due to the coolness and hotness that the blonde in the arena is emitting. She wants him, and she wants him now. 7. Next to her are her supposed best friend and rival of love, Sakura Haruno, who is probably the most useless girl in all the Rookie 9. She has pink hair that is cut short, wearing a pink, blouse-like shirt with mid-thigh length biker shorts. Currently she is observing the blonde, and comparing him to her Sasuke-kun. That blonde idiot is nothing compared to my Sasuke-kun. I bet Sasuke can do better than him, and defeat them in a blink of an eye, through the ever-so-useless fangirl. Having more thoughts like those going through her head with inner Sakura agreeing all the way, she continued to watch the blonde idiot who is about to get his ass handed to him by the Sannin, and the wife of the yondaime, or that's what she thinks. 8. Right beside her is none other than the Uchiha fag itself, named Uchiha Sasuke, son of the ever-arrogant Uchiha Fugaku, and Mikoto Uchiha, also the heir of the clan, and one of the few survivors of the Uchiha massacre performed by his older brother, Uchiha Itachi. He is wearing an open-chest long-sleeved shirt that shows off his wimpy muscles, a pretzel-like contraption that looks idiotic tied around his waist holding up puny Chikudo, and wearing slightly baggy dark blue ninja pants. Observing the blonde, and all his power, the Uchiha grew jealous, and thought that power, those summons, and that blade, it should be mine. I'm an Uchiha, an elite. I deserve all that power, not that no-named loser. I will go to him, and demand him those items, or make an example out of him to those who disobey me. I am invincible, and nothing will stop me. With those weapons, I would be able to kill him. He continued to observe the blonde, or more likely the massive blade that he is wielding, and the summons, imagining himself with those weapons, and defeating Itachi. It almost made him squeal in glee at the thought almost, though a small whimper-like squeal was heard around the area. But most thought that it was the same squeal that happened a few seconds ago when Chuji ate popcorn, so they left it at that. Getting those thoughts out of his head, Sasuke continued to watch the dobe, whilst imagining himself in the blonde's place, and thinking of a way to obtain those weapons. A smirk appeared on his face. 9. The last, but definitely the strongest of the Rookie 9, is probably the most powerful of all the Rookie 9. Even though she is a genin by rank, she is probably high chunin to low jounin is raw strength-wise. Even though she went to the now-dubbed Red Zone a month ago, she was forced to come by her mother because she wanted to keep an eye on her. Uzumaki Namake's Naomi, a teenage woman that looks like her mother, with the difference being the blonde streaks that run across some part of her long wavy hair. She also has her mother's violet eyes, only a little brighter. She is wearing an orange long-sleeved shirt with the torso part being black, and stopped just an inch or two below her ankle. She is also wearing the usual shinobi pants with a custom belt that has a ribbon instead of the buckle. She adorns a Konoha headband on her left bicep, while her right bicep is occupied by an Uzushio headband. She has been very restless this whole month due to the fact that her mother has told her that this Naruto is actually her half-brother now, since half his DNA structure was destroyed due to the incident 10 years ago. When her mother and her went home the night she found out about her brother, they had a heated discussion about Naruto. Flashback a month ago after meeting, Kushina and Naomi are found walking back to the Namake's compound, Kushina supporting a face filled with anger and rage whilst Naomi had a look of confusion, longing, and anger not at Naruto, but at her mother who has kept her in the dark about her brother who she said was dead. There was a tense silence between the two, as neither of them could look each other in the face without breaking down, so they decided to avoid contact until they reached home. It didn't take long for them to reach the house, and once the doors were closed and the security seals activated, Naomi looked at her mother, and stared right into her eyes, tears streaming down her beautiful heart-shaped face. Why? She started. Why did you tell me I had a brother? Or more importantly, why didn't you tell me that my brother was alive? You said he died the day he was born. You said. She was interrupted by Kushina saying, enough museum, don't call me that. Not until you answer my question, screamed Naomi with a hoarse voice. Sighing, Kushina began. He is not your brother, and your brother did indeed die the day he was born. The person you saw is the demon Kyuubi no Kitsune in the body of your brother. She was interrupted by Naomi who screamed, liar. That's not the Kyuubi. Legends say he evil, full of menace. I don't sense any of that in him. Towards you maybe, but not towards the Hokage and the other jounins in the room. Not towards me. I felt warmness from him. Love, compassion. Nothing you or the book said about the Kyuubi is in him. He's just trying to trick you with his false kindness. Once you let your guard down he'll attack you, Kushina replied. What do you have against Naruto? Questioned Naomi. That thing is not Naruto. Naruto died the day the Kyuubi was sealed inside of him, and took my husband away from me, screamed Kushina, as she grew tired of this endless squabble. Naomi looked at her mother, Kushina, with wide eyes as she finally understood. Is that it? She asked in a quiet voice. Is that why you hate him so much? Because the Kyuubi took Dad? Or because Dad sealed the Kyuubi in Naruto that caused this? Said Naomi. No, it's Kushina tried to reply, but Naomi said, so if the Kyuubi was sealed in me, would you abandon it like you did Naruto? Kushina hesitated before she tried to answer, but before she could, Naomi had a look of realization at what her answer would be. Oh my god, you would? Wouldn't you? It wasn't a question. It's more like a statement. With that, Naomi slowly backed away from Kushina, and headed towards her room with silent tears at the thought of having her mother abandon her the same way she abandoned Naruto if the QB was sealed inside of her instead of her. Nichan. No, Musum, please. Kushina tried to hold Naomi's hand while pleading her to understand. Before Kushina could grab Naomi's hand, Naomi brought it up to her face to cover her mouth while the silent stream that ran down her face never stopped for a second. No, please, just leave me alone. Don't call me Musum. Don't talk to me. Don't do anything to me. Just leave me alone, Naomi replied in a quiet voice, as she ran upstairs to her room, slamming the door, and locking it behind her, leaving Kushina in the hallway in front of the main door, alone, and slowly tears started to drop from her face, as a few sobs of pain and sadness escaped her mouth. This is all your fault, demon. If you haven't returned, thought Kushina angrily. Flashback end with Naomi. True to her words, Kushina did not talk to her, she just left her alone for the whole month. Of course Kushina, tried to make up conversation a few times during the month, but Naomi just quietly shook her head in a negative way. She wasn't in the mood to talk to her mother. Brandishing these thoughts out of her mind, she began to think back to the day where Naruto and her had a talk, which occurred the same day that Naomi and Kushina had a fight. Right after Naomi slammed the door. Flashback after she slammed the door. Naomi slammed the door and locked it before she jumped into bed and buried her face into the pillow, letting out a few sobs every second or so. She was just so angry and sad that her mother had lied to her all her life, and that she might abandon him if the QB was sealed inside her. She was about to fall asleep crying when a voice from behind her said, "You know, I don't like seeing pretty girls cry, especially if they're family." She snapped her neck so fast that it might have cracked and looked at the person who spoke. It turned out to be Naruto, minus the massive sword that was on his back, the gloves and armor that he usually has. Not knowing what to do and having this emotional pain welled up inside of her, she ran towards him and bear hugged him whilst she cried and apologized over and over again. Naruto returned the hug as he said, "Sure, it's okay. I don't blame you at all. It's not your fault. You didn't know and couldn't have known, so don't worry." Sure, stroking her back affectionately and saying soothing words to her as she screamed and cried into his chest. "Good thing I placed the silencing seal before I did this though, Naruto." Naomi blushed at the thought of what they did that night. She calmed her thumping heart, tried to hide the wet spot located in her crotch, and looked the other way so that nobody would notice her flushed face, and looked towards the arena. She have learned about sex in school and from her mother, and she wants more, but right now, her beloved getting ready to fight Jiraiya Kyufu, and her mother silently cheering Naruto for victory, as she recalled what Naruto wrote in the note that he left. "I love you," with the Kages. The Kages were absolutely stunned at what had transpired in the arena before them. A teenager had just defeated Konoha's elites with just his summons. It was really disturbing at how powerful this unknown summon is. Not to mention the summoner has not revealed anything yet. The Kages, other than the Sandaime Hokage, seeing this as a chance to gain the last Namikes into their ranks, started to plot. The Raikage. Such power, and at such a young age, I must have him in the ranks. I should arrange an arranged marriage between some of the ninjas in the village or let him choose, thought Ananoki, the Tsuchikage. He is definitely Minato's boy, that power. I wonder if I still have that scroll with the documents for his and Kuratsuchi engagement. It was supposed to be the symbol that would stop the hatred between either villages that Minato devised behind the council's back. Maybe I could use that to gain his alliance? Thought Anuki. I wonder if he's into the feisty and tomboyish type, he thought as, and afterthought, thinking of Kuratsuchi and her tomboyish attitude. Mei Terumi, the Mizukage. I can't believe it, he's alive! After all these years, he's really alive though. May and happiness for you. See, the Namikes and Terumi clan were quite close with each other, and Minato, the previous clan head of the Namikes clan, had arranged a marriage between his soon-to-be-born son, Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, with the daughter of the clan head of the Terumi clan, to bring the clan to a closer relationship with each other, and giving Konoha another ally. Though the Kyuubi attacked Konoha, and the Terumi clan heard that Namikaze Minato died in battle, along with his son. After that day, the clan did not send any more messages to Konoha, for they see no point. But now, the son of Minato is alive, and, well, judging from the six-packs and strength, I hope he likes redheads, thought Mei. Sabaku no Furio, the Kazekage. He is definitely your son Minato. He has your skills. I wonder, having him in Suna would boost our standings in the nation. We could finally gain more supporters, and funding from the daimyo if this were to happen. I must get that boy. I wonder if he's into blondes, thought Furio. With the daimyos. The daimyos were discussing what would be the fate of the Namikaze heir. They were discussing on who get to keep him when he wins the tournament. It's actually quite obvious on who is going to win, especially if the blonde could summon other monsters the same size as that Royal Ludroth, not that they knew the name, or that he could summon something as big as a quarter of Konoha. They were having a heated argument, each daimyo giving legitimate reason on why they should have the Namikaze heir, but before they could declare war on each other, and before the IWA daimyo could insult the size of the fire daimyo's wife, they heard Naruto say, in a soft yet clear voice, "So, shall we dance?" With that, Jiraiya and Kushina went into their respective fighting stance, whilst Naruto just stood on top of the Renaplos and put his battle face on, which is technically a glare, something he learned when he was a kid that intimidation helps bring down. A tense silence followed, not one being made a noise. Even the still struggling Royal Ludroth was completely still, as he observed the master's opponent. A second later, Naruto and Kushina blurred from view, and they collided in the a few meters from their original position. Their swords stopped in mid-swing in front of their face, sending small shockwaves that lifted the dust and pebble near the area, whilst Jiraiya bit his thumb and summoned 2 wrestling frogs. Both were the color red with blue, uneven dot-like characteristics across their body, wearing samurai-like armor. Both frogs knew what to do, as they hopped and jumped on top of the Renaplos and began to pound it with their webbed hands. The Renaplos, already knowing that the bone-like padding would protect it from any harm, decided to run around to get toads off their back, ramming into the walls ever so often, and creating a small earthquake every time. A poor wall. Naruto and Kushina were locked in mid-swing, both not gaining any ground against each other. Of course, Kushina knew that Naruto was not using his full strength, since she experienced it during the red zone a month ago. Just Naruto was about to push forward, he was forced to jump back, as Jiraiya came down with a Rasengan in his right hand, creating a crater where he once stood. Dust and debris lifted, creating a dust cloud around Jiraiya and Kushina. Inside the dust cloud, Kushina started Jiraiya. "I will engage Naruto in an all-out battle. I will tire him out, even if it costs me in the battle. Once he's tired, you are to engage him with them, okay? Surprise him, and catch him off guard. If playing dirty is the only way to get him to stay in the village, then playing dirty we shall." Kushina only nodded her head, as she understood what he was implying to, though her reason is not because she wants that demon to stay. She wants to beat the living shit out of him for taking her husband away from her. Jiraiya, waiting for the dust cloud to settle, started to charge up another Rasengan to help it disperse. Outside a vortex of dust, the audience did not know what was transpiring inside the cloud of dust, and before someone could complain that it was too boring, the dust started to move in a vortex-like pattern, before it all gathered in the center of Jiraiya's hand, which shows that he is holding a Rasengan. Jiraiya, not knowing what is happening outside of the dust cloud, closed his eyes in a dramatic way, and said, "Naruto, this is for your own good. I will fight you to the best of my abilities, knowing that my sensei and everybody in this village that cares about you is backing me with this. I will make sure that you remain in the village. So here I go." "Areasiangiji Ganon, where'd he go?" said a confused Jiraiya, as he finally opened his eyes when he was about to charge at the blonde with the super awesome dust-powered Rasengan, only to find that the blonde is nowhere in sight. Everybody in the arena, young and old, sweat dropped at the epic fail that just transpired before their eyes. Jiraiya of the Sannin, the strongest of the three, just said a heartfelt speech in a dramatic fashion to a person that he wants to bring back, only to realize that said person is nowhere to be seen. That brought up another question: where is he? Everybody searched far and wide, high and low, but did not find the blonde. Jiraiya, having a sense of deja vu, looked left, nothing, right, nope, they're two up, no, he should have landed by now, behind. I only see Kushina-chan. That's when he realized. He looked down, and just as he guessed it, there he was, crouched low, hiding inside his shadow. Amazing, hiding right under my nose, literally, without me detecting him. Before Jiraiya knew what had happened, Naruto sent a hard uppercut with his elbow, and flung Jiraiya into the air. While Jiraiya was still airborne, Naruto grabbed hold of his blade, and swung it at a horizontal arc towards Kushina, who by now realized where he was, and was fast enough to bring her swords up to a blocking position, but not before reinforcing it with her unique chakra so that it would, at least, not break the sword in half. Once the blades touched each other, Kushina was flung to the other end of the arena, since she forgot to put chakra to her feet, as she was concentrating it on her sword. She skipped across the hard ground, and came to a stop when she landed with a large boom, as more dust and large pieces of the arena wall, and the ground flew away from where Kushina lay, embedded in the wall. Once the dust settled, there standing at the wall was Kushina, all battered and bruised in that one swing. it was embarrassing. Yandame's wife, being beaten up by her own son with one hit, was a disgrace to her name and power. Naruto was about to charge at his so-called mother when Jiraiya landed in front of him and engaged him with a flurry of punches and kicks. Though being the close-quarter specialist that Naruto is, he managed to dodge, redirect, and block all attacks. The experienced and old ninjas in the audience knew that Jiraiya is buying time for Kushina to recover after that powerful hit, and knew that he doesn't have to hold on for long since Kushina is part of the Uzumaki clan. And, for those who know who they are, they have a high healing rate. A few minutes later, Kushina was able to stand on her own 2 feet. Jiraiya, noticing this, jumped back, dodging the massive blade, as it almost cut him in half. A chuckle escaped Naruto's lips, before a smirk adorned his face, and said, "Come on, I really wanted to face you both. I came all the way here for this?" What a joke. Jiraiya, the strongest of the Sannin, and also the sage of Mt. Myaboku, and former sensei of the deceased Yandame Hokage, is taking hits from a teenager. Even though I am his son, you should have done better. Earning a scowl and determined look from the Sannin, before Naruto looked at Kushina, and you, the wife of the Yandame, Konoha's Red Death, said to be a master of swordsmanship, couldn't handle a single attack by her own son. I don't know what Dad saw in you, stated Naruto. That was it. That was the last straw. She has held on to her urge of killing this demon. At the gate, even at the office, and, because of it, she has lost her relationship with her daughter. It had embarrassed her in front of everyone in the stadium, and, in front of the Kages. Now she wants revenge. Charging straight to the blonde, Kushina raised her sword in a vertical, downward slash, only for Naruto to use his right hand, which has the gauntlet on, as a shield to block her swing. Bringing her blade back, she put the flat side of the blade near her face, put her forearm on the top part of the blade, in a block position, as Naruto used his right leg to try and kick her, though what Kushina didn't count on was the hidden blades that are located at the top part of the sole of the shoe, which nearly stabbed her brains through her left ear. Kushina then ducked and twirled around once before she brought her blade in an upward slash, only to have her target disappear and reappear behind her with his gauntlet hand in a piercing motion. She was about to dodge to the left and only sustain a small gash on her right stomach, before a clang sound stopped her and revealed Jiraiya blocking the gauntlet. Kushina, remember the plan. Let me handle this, and you rest up. I have more experience, so I should be sufficient for a while, said Jiraiya, though he whispered the last part so that only he could hear. But he didn't know Naruto heard it either, due to his enhanced hearing. Giving Jiraiya an eye smile, Naruto said to him, why don't we take it up a notch? You summon your boss summon, while I summon something within its caliber? Okay? Make it much more interesting. Jiraiya didn't like the sound of that. Summon something within its caliber? Is the boss really that powerful? He thought, though seeing that the regular summons have defeated elite jounins, it wasn't that much surprising. Thinking of the pros and cons, Jiraiya thought if Naruto summoned something bigger, then they could discover or uncover more secrets from the blonde, and probably determine his strength and weakness. This also prove as a major boost in Konoha's standing if they manage to fight off a summon from Naruto, especially if it isn't the boss, and they manage to win. Nodding to Naruto, they separated to different sides of the arena. As Jiraiya was about to start the sequence of hand signs for the summoning technique, Naruto called out, I don't think Hokage Gigi would be happy if we destroy the village in our summon fight, so why don't we move out of the arena and go outside of the village, Looking at the Sandaime, Jiraiya received a nod, and, with that, Jiraiya and Naruto teleported outside of Konoha in their respective ways. The ninjas in the vicinity all jumped to the roof of the arena and other building. The Kages were about to follow their examples, but Hokage stopped them and pointed towards the Hokage mountain. Getting the message, the Kages shined towards the heads of the previous and current Hokages, though before they did that, they brought the daimyos of their country with them since they have been complaining about their guards leaving them behind, due to the action, and seeing a live battle between summons, since it is rare to actually see one, and live to tell about it. Once the Kages and daimyos arrived, they positioned their heads towards the horizon where they assumed the battle of summons would appear, and, true to their words, 2 giant puffs of smoke appeared. Once the smoke cleared, one of them revealed to be the boss summon for the frogs, Gamabunta. He is a big rusty red frog, as big as the Hokage Tower, wearing a blue vest. He has a gigantic Kizura pipe with a giant dosa blade, strapped on his makeshift bandage belt. The other cloud of smoke revealed something that is considered extinct, a dragon, a red dragon with no front legs to be exact. Knowing the blonde, and his stunts, it's not surprising that he could summon something such as this, but having 3 different contracts? Come on, it's so ridiculous it's not even funny. Once they got over their shock, they observed the dragon with a closer eye. Its scales seemed to be spiky, having bone-like spike jutting out of its back, leg, and wings, and looks to be as hard as the best steel that the nation could make, maybe even stronger. The scale also seems to glow an eerie red that puts off some people. The size of the dragon was nothing to scoff at either. It's only half the size of Gamabunta because of the fact that the dragon was meant to be standing that way. Though the wingspan of that thing is truly amazing too when it gave out that mighty roar, and stretched out its wings, showing something achingly similar to a tattoo in its wing skin. Overall, it looked really dangerous, especially with its spiked tail and wings. Few minutes earlier with Jiraiya and Naruto, both competitors appeared in a clearing a few miles away from Konoha in their respective ways, Jiraiya using the leaf Shunshin whilst Naruto used plain, good old speed. They stared at each other for a while before nodding at each other, and performed the same jutsu in perfect conjunction. Once they slammed their hands on the ground, giant plumes of white smoke covered their bodies, and, as the smoke dispersed, it revealed Jiraiya standing on top of Gamabunta, a determined look on his face, and Naruto, standing on top of the red dragon-like creature. As usual, Gamabunta complained about being summoned, and said in an annoyed voice, "Jiraiya, why have you summoned me? And have you found the Gaki yet?" His tone growing confused at the end, as he was facing a growling dragon, something he has heard in legends and myths. Am I your ally that bad of a summoned boss for you to summon me facing that? Gamabunta questioned the Gama Sinin whilst he pointed animatedly to the growling red dragon. Well, Jiraiya started, you are to me, but that's not what I summoned you here for. As much as I'd love to, he whispered the last part, before he said, and the Gaki you mentioned, Minato's kid, he's right there. Jiraiya finished his sentence, and pointed towards Naruto, who was standing on top of the dragon, waiting patiently for the battle. As he crossed his arms over his chest, an eye smile present on his face. By God! Exclaimed Gamabunta, he's been missing for 10 years, and suddenly appeared here on top of that. But he does have some resemblance to Minato, the hair, and that's pretty much it. Though the determined look on his face could also be inherited by him, Gamabunta wondered, mostly to himself. It's nice that you were my father's summons and all, but really, could we get on with this fight? Rathalos-chan here is getting edgy, and is itching from a fight that I promised before I came to the village, stated Naruto in a bored tone, as the now identified female Rathalos, who gave a mighty roar that shook the land itself, and shuffled her feet in anticipation. Though before they could begin, Gamabunta asked, What fight? What are you not telling me, Jiraiya? He questioned with narrowed eyes and a dangerous tone in which he got a nervous reply from said person. Well, he kind of wants his inheritance. But Kushina wouldn't allow it, so we're having a battle royal to see who will earn the Gaki's alliance, and the Namikaze's inheritance. Look, I promise to explain everything later, but right now, could we concentrate on this right now? I kind of want him to stay in the village with the inheritance, and all, Jiraiya said, getting a serious expression once he neared the end of his short sentence. Well, you finally summoned me for something useful. No need to talk any further, Jiraiya. I'll help you get the Gaki back, Gamabunta said, and with that, he jumped high into the air, and did a single hand sign, and called out water style, gunshot, and as soon as he said it, he breathed in giant gulps of air, and breathed out 3 water bullets towards the Rathalos, who just turned to her side, and used her wings as a shield to defend her master. The water bullet hit the wings of the Rathalos, though it only managed to make it skid a few meters back. Once all bullets had hit the target, the Rathalos roared once more, and spread its wings before it took flight high in the sky, meeting Gamabunta along the way. Gamabunta landed with a heavy thud, and caused ripples around the now slightly soft ground. Jiraiya, thinking fast, asked Bunta, give him some oil, in which he got a nod from the giant toad, and they both began to perform different sets of hand seals simultaneously, and called out their jutsu fire style. Big flame bullet, toad oil bullet. The techniques meet up halfway to its target, the Rathalos, and combined with each other, before Jiraiya and Bunta shouted fire style. Total flame bullet, in which it resulted into a massive stream of fire, so hot that it could be felt kilometers away from them. Not that anybody did. The massive flame continued its course towards the Rathalos, and hit it, causing a great explosion to occur in the sky, as the clouds in the area turned red, and seemed to glow. Jiraiya, fearing that he might have killed his godson, grabbed his head, and screamed animatedly, followed by Gamabunta. This continued for a few more seconds before they stopped, and, looking the flaming cloud expectantly, hoping/praying to any deity in this nation that his godson would survive, only for both of them to scream again, this time, in terror, as they saw a flaming Rathalos, descending towards the both of them in high speed, roaring all the way, making it look like a massive meteor, which reminded Jiraiya of a similar type of technique that guy once used at an unfortunate enemy ninja. Due to Gamabunta's size and The shock of seeing the rat halos to be fireproof, and flying towards them in a kamikaze kind of way, they were hit with the full brunt of the 552 tons flaming dragon, which caused an explosion the size of the Hokage Tower, and shook the nation's core itself. Dust clouds reached the skies, polluting it with the smell of burning flesh, and flaming leaves/trees that are so unfortunate to be in the middle of it all. The ground that also has the misfortune of experiencing a miniature olden days atomic bomb was left a crater the size of a quarter of Konoha in its wake. The dust cloud took minutes to clear, and, before it did, a mighty roar could be heard from within, telling the wide-eyed spectators who had won the fight between summons. Once the cloud settled, it revealed a slightly injured rat halos, with a scorch mark that covered the whole of its face, and parts of its neck slightly limping, as it walked backwards to gain a bit of distance. The spectators were anxious to see the result of such a devastating attack. They wanted to see what has become of the great Gamma Sennin and Gamabunta. They didn't have to wait long, as the dust cloud completely settled to unravel the current condition of the Toad Boss summon. Though they now wish that the dust cloud remained in the air, for they don't want to see what has happened to one of Konoha's greatest ninja and summon. Gamabunta looks, for lack of a better term, fucked up. His blue cloak is now nothing but a piece of scorched and still burning cloth. His sword has chips and missing pieces located in random places of the shaft of the blade, and his favorite pipe is nowhere to be seen. Gamabunta himself looks worse for wear. His whole body is completely covered by scorch marks, except for his cute little tail at the bottom of his back, and a straight line that ran across his right waist to his left shoulder, indicating that he must have used his sword to lessen the impact, but it obviously did little to nothing. Everybody that was watching was either busy gawking or picking up their jaws that managed to dig itself 2 meters underground. Could not believe that something like this could happen, such power, and to someone so young, who most of them have bullied, glared, thrown rocks at, and even starved. Some were scared shitless. They have probably tortured the world's strongest being when he was nothing but a defenseless kid, but now, he's that. Gamabunta, still standing, blew out a plume of black smoke from his mouth, closing his eyes ever so slowly, fell forward to the ground with a thundering thud, and dispelled back to empty Myaboku. All those who have a keen eye, or the Byakugan, could see a small dot that they assume was Jiraiya, falling towards the ground. They would have observed the dot more if it wasn't for a female civilian to scream and distract them. They looked at her, and noticed that she was looking up to the sky while pointing in fear. Following her fingers, the ninja and civilians saw the rat halos descending towards them in a leisurely pace, indicating that it was going to attack. But since civilians aren't that smart with these type of things, and they tend to overreact, most of them screamed and ran in terror, only to be quieted down by a roar from the rat halos as it landed on the roof of the stadium, and slowly lower its head, and reveal Naruto, whose left arm was scorched, and part of its face mask to be burned, showing the red, tear-like mark from its left eye. Once the rat halos is only a meter from the ground, Naruto jumped of the rat halos, and landed in front of the now fully healed Kushina, who has landed on the arena. As soon as she saw the rat halos heading their way, looking at him in shock and slight fear at such a power, the rat halos, seeing her master safely on the ground, rose to its full height, spread its wings, and gave off a final mighty roar, as it dispersed into a plume of white smoke. The whole of Konoha was dead quiet. Not even a baby was crying. The insects remained still. Birds fled the village in fear of the summon. Dogs quietly whimpered. The wind stopped blowing, and the sun seemed less bright. Everybody, who could see, was now looking at Naruto, in shock, fear, and respect. Mostly fear. Shock that a teenager is able to do something in that caliber to the landscape. Fear at the thought that that field could be Konoha, and respect for his strength. Naruto was about to approach Kushina and end the battle, but a black blur the size of an average man landed in the middle of his path towards his mother. The blur landed with a crash and made a small crater where he stood. It slowly revealed that the blur was none other than Jiraiya, a very burnt, very beat-up Jiraiya, though something was different. His nose seemed bigger, and looks to be similar to a toad. Same thing with the eyes. He was breathing heavily, and everyone could tell that he would fall in a few more minutes. Jiraiya took his time to catch his breath. If Huff Huff your father Huff was here now, Huff Huff Huff, he would be Huff very Huff proud, he said in between huffs, and grinned at the very end of his sentence before he charged, and put him a Rasengan, and, with the remaining strength he has on his person, ran towards Naruto, who was surprised at the speed that a weakened man has. But of course, he's not a Sannin for nothing, Naruto thought, as he saw that Jiraiya was but within striking distance. Jiraiya rammed his Udama Rasengan at Naruto, who seemed surprised, and had no time to react, and was sent flying towards the wall. People were stunned by the feat the Sannin performed, but this is coming from the strongest of the three, so it wasn't that much of a shock. The audience were cheering at the Sannin, as he lay in the ground, barely conscious from the last assault. Thought the cheering stopped when they heard movement, and the shuffling of rubble at the place where Naruto impacted, and saw said person coming out of the crater with blood running out of the side of his slightly exposed mouth, and a wide grin adorned his face. Congratulations, Jiraiya. You're the first person to ever injure me. If Dad was here right now, he would have been proud of both of us. You deserve the title, said Naruto, seemingly not finishing his sentence on purpose for a few seconds to let the information settle. For he finally finished his sentence in a soft voice towards his godfather, who was looking at him with wide eyes, and a similar grain to his godson. A few tears escaped his eyes before he succumbed to unconsciousness. The crowd applauded at such a spectacular and loving display that the duo has performed. Civilian, who have gotten out of their fear the moment Jiraiya appeared, and ninjas alike rose from their sitting position and clapped. The cheers could be heard all across Konoha, but that all ended when they saw the anger in Naruto's eyes, as he looked upon his mother. Now everyone quieted down, and the atmosphere in Konoha returned to its previous one. Everybody is sitting at the edge of their seats, wishing that it was longer so that they wouldn't have to fall every few minutes. Naruto and Kushina are now in a stare down, one of them having legitimate reason to have each other, while the other has her own personal reason that no one understands. A leaf fell from a tree and, once it landed on the muddy ground that is the arena, both Naruto and Kushina blurred and met halfway from each other. Like the first time they clashed, only this time they didn't stop. Swing after swing, clang after clang, they didn't stop, didn't let up, and definitely didn't gain any grounds. That is until Naruto made a mighty swing in which Kushina instantly blocked, though that was a bad decision on her part, as she was once again flung back towards the wall, probably breaking her back in the process. She was about to stand up and fight again, but found herself within the shadows of her son lifting his blade up high, and was about to cut her in half, before Kushina smirked, and I wasn't surprised when blood was splattered across her face, but it's not hers. Naruto stood wide-eyed. He was winning, and was about to finish Kushina off when suddenly, he felt a piercing pain through the non-vital parts of his torso. He looked down to the smirking face of his mother, then down to the two jutting blades on his torso. He looked behind him to see the sad, concerned, and sorry faces of Yuzuki Yugao and Gecko Hate. Gomenasai, they both whispered. The end. Thanks for watching my video, and make